Chapter 1209. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. However, such a thing didn't happen to Hong Jun and Fang Qingshan's group. No matter what, they were all accomplished cultivators. No matter if it was Hong Jun, Fang Qingshan, or Yang Mei, they were all experts who wanted to break through to the immortal realm. It was just a piece of cake for them to control their emotions. Compared to taking revenge overnight, they preferred not to show their emotions. They believed in the saying, "Listen to the thunder in the silence." It was fine if they didn't take action. Once they took action, they would definitely take action after planning. Thus, when the two sides met, they looked strangely harmonious. There was no murderous intent. People who didn't know them would think that they were old friends. Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan, the two Taoists, are here. Your presence brings light to my humble abode. Please. Although he hated that he couldn't capture the two of them right now, he was just thinking about it. Not to mention whether he could do it or not, the enemy was right in front of him. He could still use Yang Mei's group, but Hong Jun wouldn't destroy its own wall. Kill the donkey after it's out of the millstone, and cook the dog after it's out of the millstone. After killing the rabbit, they would kill the donkey and cook the dog. Thus, on the surface, they acted as if they didn't remember the grudge between them. They weren't afraid of Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan at all. It was like they were visiting their friends. When Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan arrived, Hong Jun even personally came out of the Purple Cloud Palace to welcome them. Haha, if the Purple Cloud Palace is just a humble abode, then the entire Desolation Palace would be a barren land, wouldn't it? Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan couldn't understand Hong Jun's attitude more than anyone else. After all, the ones who understood you the most weren't your friends or family, but your enemies. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Fortunately, they were jackals of the same tribe. However, two tigers couldn't live on the same mountain. So in the end, if it wasn't a fight to the death, only one side would retreat. After some small talk, under Hong Jun's lead, the two of them entered the Purple Cloud Palace. Fang Qingshan could be considered to be revisiting this place. After entering the Purple Cloud Palace and seeing the familiar scene, he could not help but feel emotional. Back then, it was here that he started to make a name for himself. Fighting over praying mats, listening to the Tao 3 times, seizing treasures at the Treasure Division Cliff, and so on. It was a pity that things remained the same, but people had changed. After that, he refined his first Khanate cardinal treasure and broke through to primordial chaos. After that, he advanced in the timeless arc and even plotted against Hong Jun. Until now, he still had lingering fears about himself. After calming down, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan looked at each other and asked directly, "Taoist Hong Jun, I heard that there are guests from other realms in the chaos now, and they pose a great threat to the Desolation world and our chaos world. Although the two of us don't care much about the Desolation world, we were born in our chaos world after all. As the saying goes, everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of the world, and we are duty-bound to protect the safety of our chaos world. Therefore, we heard that Taoist is short on manpower and the quality is uneven, so we specially came to help. The two Taoists' righteousness and bravery are admirable to Hong Jun." Hong Jun could not help but scoff at Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan's words, especially coming to help. They sounded righteous, but they still wanted to share the profits. However, on the surface, Hong Jun first praised them, then changed the topic. However, there is no need to trouble the two Taoists for such a trivial matter. As the saying goes, there is no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. I have already arranged a way to deal with the Poison Marquis and the others. With Sanqing, Hutu, Ro, and the others taking action, there is no need to trouble the two Taoists. Although Fang Qingshan had a greater chance of winning, and he was more inclined to let them take action, Hong Jun definitely could not agree immediately. Moreover, he still had to see the situation of Jia Yin and the others before making a decision. Oh, but why do I hear that this is not the case? Taoist Hong Jun, we are not outsiders, so there is no need to hide it. Even the cleverest housewife cannot cook without rice. Seeing that Hong Jun seemed to be playing hard to get, or that he wanted to fight for more benefits. Fang Qingshan did not want to play Tai Chi with him, so he pointed it out directly. Although the Poison Marquis and the others do not have a high cultivation level, they come from the boundless void after all, and they are from the lifeless demon palace. I do not know much about the other forces, but I have to say a few words about the void bandits. These people roam the void all year round, robbing people for a living. They are the most hated existences in the universe, but there is nothing they can do about it. That's because not only do they have a strong backing that is not the slightest bit weaker than those large powers, even their own strength is outstanding. At the very least, they can be said to be invincible amongst those of the same generation, especially in a life and death battle. Many of them can even challenge those of a higher level. They are not much inferior to the disciples of those famous sections. Although Sanxing and the others are not bad, Jiayin and Junti and Nuwa are not good enough. Not to mention that they do not have a supreme treasure, and their cultivation is not enough. Just their battle experience, courage, and so on are no different from Jiayin and Junti. Therefore, if Hongjun Daoist uses them, there's a suspicion that they will fail miserably at an easy task. This matter can be ignored in normal times. If they lose, then so be it. Just treat it as an experience and a lesson. But this time, it concerns the entire desolation and the benefits of the chaos. We cannot be careless, and we must do our best to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Moreover, the god of Poison Marquis and the others have the Taoist secret method to avoid the Deva decay and break through to the immortal realm. This cannot be lost. Is it possible that the Taoist is willing to watch such a great opportunity slip away before his eyes? The two Taoists are right, but there is no need for the two of you to worry about it. I have my own plans, but if the two Taoists are really needed, I will not pretend to be fat. Hongju nodded at first, not at all embarrassed that he was exposed, but he did not say anything definite. Then he suddenly asked, "From what the two Taoists said, it seems that you understand the immeasurable void very well." That's right. In this regard, Fang Qingshan had nothing to hide. I can't say that I understand it very well, but I know a thing or two about it. After all, the Taoist knows that I have the timeless arc, a comprehensive timeless Arkansas. Sometimes, I meet the cultivators of the immeasurable void who happen to enter the ruined city. However, I can get very little information from them, especially about those secret methods. As the saying goes, the secret method should not be spread to 6 ears, and the Tao should not be spread easily. What a pity. Speaking of this, Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh. Not to mention the secret method to avoid the Deva decay and break through to the immortal realm. Fang Qingshan did not even collect many ordinary cultivation methods to the mixed essence realm after so many years. As for why the god of Poison Marquis and the others dared to spread these cultivation methods, it was because the lifeless demon palace was different from the ordinary big sections. Apart from the truly unique good things, they did not care about anything else. As for the truly unique skills, they would not be placed in the Sutra Depository. Even if they were placed in the Sutra Depository, they would not be something that cultivators like the god of Poison Marquis and the others could exchange for. Chapter 12:10. It wasn't easy to obtain, so they treasured it. This was why there was a saying that the Tao couldn't be passed on lightly. Because the lifeless demon palace was a void bandit faction, most of the secret arts they obtained were stolen, so they didn't treasure them too much. As long as one was willing to pay the price, they could exchange for the secret arts. They also didn't require one to swear an oath not to pass it on to others. The Poison God Marquis and the others had obtained their secret arts too easily. Plus, they were the stakes of a bet, so there were no restrictions or repercussions. As such, they easily made promises. However, they would only be able to take out ordinary secret techniques. They would not take out those ultimate techniques that they had hidden up their sleeves. Both Hong Jun and Fang Qingshan were well aware of this, but they didn't really care. What they needed were ordinary secret arts that had been tempered and refined, not so-called ultimate techniques. Only secret arts that had been passed down for a long time would be able to withstand trials and wouldn't have any major problems. Only these kinds of things could be malleable. To them, A secret art that was most suitable for them was the best secret art. These ordinary secret arts could allow them to comprehend their own secret arts based on their own circumstances. If it were a high-level secret art, Hong Jun and the others would have to consider whether it was suitable for them. Moreover, it would be very troublesome to cultivate. Back in the day, I left my own chaos world to roam the universe. Unfortunately, my cultivation was too low, and I didn't even reach another chaos world. Along the way, I came across a gathering point in the infinite void and obtained some information. If it weren't for my good luck, I would have long since become a pile of dirt. After Fong Qingshan, Yang Mei also calmly explained. Hong Jun's eyes flashed. He hadn't expected that the timeless arc in Fong Qingshan's hands wasn't just powerful. It was a comprehensive, timeless arc, and Yang Mei had already left his own chaos world. Compared to them, Hong Jun was like a frog in a well. If it weren't for the poison god Marquis's arrival and the great Tao's warning, he wouldn't have known anything about the infinite void. Looks like I should go out and take a look after this matter. Hong Jun thought to himself. Cultivation required 4 things: wealth, companionship, method, and place. Apart from that, one needed to be enlightened. Humans followed the earth gave rise to the heavens followed the Tao, and the Tao followed nature. To put it simply, one couldn't work behind closed doors. One needed to go out and see the world. Hong Jun was the master of the desolation, Hong Jun Tiandao. The entire desolation was his lair. He also had the Fate Jade Plate and the Purple Cloud Palace in his hands. He did not lack money or land. If he could defeat the poison god Marquis and learn the secret techniques from him, he wouldn't lack any of them until he reached the immortal realm. The only thing he lacked was his companion. In the entire desolation, the only one who could discuss Tao with him was probably Yang Mei. Besides Yang Mei, even Fong Qingshan couldn't do it. He was afraid of Fong Qingshan only because of the timeless arc, which was his combat power. Fong Qingshan was still far from his understanding of the Tao. After all, his current cultivation level was only at the mid-stage primordial chaos. He hadn't even broken through to the late-stage primordial chaos. On the other hand, Hong Jun had already broken through to the peak primordial chaos. But if he raised his eyebrows, he would be in a hostile state. For a moment, Hong Jun had a lonely feeling of being high up in the world. I didn't expect the 2 Taoists to know about the infinite void. Taoist Yang Mei has even traveled to the heavens. Hong Jun really admires you. Hong Jun sighed with emotion and said, however, although the poison god Marquis and the others are powerful, we can't belittle ourselves. Since Zhuanti and the others could stand out in the desolation, they naturally have their own abilities. Didn't the poison god Marquis and the others come out of the chaotic world in the desolation? Compared to them, we are lacking in experience and secret techniques, but that doesn't mean we don't have any advantages. At least in terms of numinous treasures, we are better. Hong Jun still didn't want to agree to join Fong Qingshan and the other 2 immediately. Therefore, he continued to delay. Daozu's words are different. If it were Sanqing, it would be easier to talk about it. They have the 3 treasures of creation, the immortal slaying sword formation, and the mysterious yellow pagoda. The Tai Chi diagram and Pangu's banner are formed from chaotic treasures. The immortal slaying sword formation can't be broken except by the 4 sages, and the mysterious yellow pagoda is invincible. These numinous treasures are the best of the best, even in the myriad heavens. But what's wrong with welcoming Zhuanti and Yuhua? Fong Qingshan shook his head. Although Goddess Nviwa has a golden wheel of merit, she is still a little lacking. It is even worse for Zhuanti and Zhuanti. Boundless Void may be relatively scarce in terms of primordial treasures, but what it lacks is at least precious treasures. They may not have top-notch primordial spiritual treasures, but they definitely have top-notch acquired spiritual treasures that are comparable to them. If they can't beat them in all aspects, how are they going to win? First, he belittled Zhuanti and the others. Of course, he wasn't belittling them. He was just stating the facts. Then, he reached the crux of the problem. I know what the Hong Jun Taoist is afraid of. You don't want us to participate in the battle because you don't want us to obtain the secret technique and make breakthroughs in our cultivation, which will pose a greater threat to you. Actually, the Taoist doesn't have to worry at all because this is a win-win situation. The Taoist doesn't need to think about it. If you don't use us, you'll be dancing with knives and swords, and your chances of winning are slim. When the time comes, you won't get any benefits, and you'll have to pay a lot. Everyone below the sages are ants, but below the immortal realm, even origin immortals are ants. If you lose the bigger picture because of a small gain, the loss will outweigh the gain. Moreover, if we can obtain benefits, fellow Taoists can also obtain even greater benefits. If our cultivation increases, fellow Taoist cultivation will also rise along with it. In that case, why should you be afraid of us and miss such a good opportunity? Also, I need to tell the Taoists that you've been targeting us all along, not the other way around. That's because you don't have absolute confidence. If it were you, would you allow others to sleep soundly next to your bed? Since Fang Qingshan and the others had said this, Hong Jun didn't mind. The Taoist doesn't have to worry about this. Hearing that Hong Jun was indeed afraid of them, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Oh, seeing this, Hong Jun was puzzled. He didn't know what the two of them were planning. Since the Taoist is afraid of us, he also wanted to chase Yang Mei and the Taoist out of the desolation back then. However, there's no need for that now. Fang Qingshan smiled. Hasn't the Taoist realized that I've been paving the way for the Shura sovereign recently? Paving the way. Hearing this, Hong Jun had a faint guess in his heart. If Fang Qingshan was in the desolation, with his cultivation and power, he could totally protect the Shura tribe. Only when he wasn't around would there be paving the way. He's not around? At this thought, Hong Jun's eyes widened. With Fang Qingshan's cultivation, it was impossible for him to die without a trace. There was only one reason. He had left the desolation or even the chaos. Chapter 12:11. If they wanted to leave desolation and enter the chaos space, there was no need to pave the way. After all, although the chaos space was vast, Fang Qingshan's cultivation had reached the peak of the mid-stage primordial chaos. He was only one step away from the late-stage primordial chaos. His speed was unimaginable. Moreover, he had the timeless arc, which was even faster. It would not take much time to go back and forth between the chaos space and desolation. Only by leaving the chaos space would it be inconvenient to communicate, and they would not be able to return in a short time. Only in this way would Fang Qingshan take the effort to pave the way for the Azura clan. If he had known that Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei were leaving desolation in the past, Hong Jun would definitely have celebrated and even promised not to target the Azura sovereign at all. He would treat him and Sanqing equally and even give him a karma rank to prove his Tao and become a sage. After all, two tigers could not share one mountain. Naturally, everyone would be happy if they could use this method to deal with the two of them. After Yang Mei and the other two left, Hong Jun would not have any worries. Not only would he be able to completely control desolation, but he would also not have to worry about someone stabbing him in the back when he broke through to the immortal realm. But not now. After understanding the situation outside the chaos space, Hong Jun did not dare to let any news about Pan Gu's chaos space leak out. After all, once an immortal realm expert was attracted, he would not be able to bear the consequences even if there were a few more David Decay experts or peak primordial chaos experts, let alone an immortal realm expert. Judging from the Taoist expression, he must have guessed it. Seeing Hong Jun's thoughtful expression, Fang Qingshan nodded. Taoist Yang Mei and I have planned to leave desolation soon and head to the myriad heavens realm. I believe that after we leave, fellow cultivator, you won't have to worry about other people sleeping soundly next to your bed, right? In this case, as long as we get the information about the boundless void, the Taoist will get the mystic technique he wants. Everyone will be happy. Leave the desolation, leave the chaos, and head for the infinite void? This was out of Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei's expectation. They thought that Hong Jun would secretly heave a sigh of relief when he heard that they were leaving the desolation and chaos. It was as if a Mount Bujo had been removed from their minds. However, in reality, that was not the case. Hong Jun did not show much emotion on the surface, but he was not as relaxed as they thought he would be. Instead, he revealed a trace of killing intent. After understanding the limitless void's information, Hong Jun knew that the place was filled with primordial elementals and undyings. In general, the people of the boundless void were more powerful than the people of the Pan-Gu Desolation world, especially the poison god Marquis. At the same level, Hong Jun secretly made a comparison. Ignoring the trump cards and treasures, even Fang Qingshan might not be able to defeat the poison god Marquis. In the entire Pan-Gu Chaos world, the most powerful person was only at the peak of primordial chaos. With the help of the power of the desolation Hong Jun Tiandao, his combat power was only comparable to that of a beginner immortal. Once the information about the desolation world and chaos world was leaked, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan must not leave the chaos world. They had to be under his watch. Only then would he feel at ease. Even if it might cause great trouble for him when he went through the boundless tribulation and the day of decay in the future, he would not hesitate. After all, he was not afraid to speculate about the other party's evil intentions. After leaving the desolation world and chaos world, Yang Mei and the others were obviously unwilling. They were like stray dogs living in fear. Therefore, once there was a chance, how could they not take revenge? As long as the location of the Pan-Gu Chaos world was exposed, they would be finished. Moreover, even if Yang Mei and the others were noble and unsullied, or wanted to monopolize the resources like the poison god Marquis and the others, it was better to be safe than sorry. What if someone searched their souls, or something happened to them, or they leaked the information, or the benefits were great enough, and they were exposed? Moreover, Hong Jun did not trust Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan at all. He judged others by himself. If he could take revenge in such a situation, he would definitely not hesitate. Thinking of this, Hong Jun was even more determined. After all, he had to be prepared for a rainy day. He could not take the slightest risk. Unlike the poison god Marquis and the others, Hong Jun could endure it because their strength was not enough to threaten his rule. Moreover, they wanted to stay in the chaos world and were also worried that someone would compete with them for resources. Therefore, as long as Hong Jun and the others didn't go overboard and there were benefits to be gained, they wouldn't leak the information. However, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei were different. They wanted to leave the chaos world. Even if they made an oath, who could predict what would happen after they left? Who knew if there were any secret techniques that could erase the oath? Therefore, they could only stay behind. Plus, they could not continue to increase their capabilities in case they become too big to survive. What's going on? Though Hong Jun's killer's intent rose quickly and disappeared even faster, who were Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei? What cultivation level did they have? Though they were negotiating with Hong Jun with sincerity, entering the Purple Cloud Palace and entering the enemy's camp, how could they not be on guard? Therefore, though the killer's intent disappeared quickly, it did not escape their eyes. The two of them were startled. They couldn't help but summon the Timeless Ark and the Green Willow Scepter to prevent Hong Jun from exploding. After all, this was the Purple Cloud Palace. Luckily, Hong Jun had no intention of making a move. He merely waved his hand. Daoist, please return. There is no need to discuss this further. I believe that Sanqing will bring Junti, Niuhua, and the others over. Though there was killer's intent, Hong Jun was still hesitant. Once again, he used the delaying tactic. If he didn't feel the killer's intent, then so be it. But since he revealed it, why wouldn't Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei think twice about it? Previously, Hong Jun's attitude made them feel like they could negotiate. But now, his tone was filled with a sense of stiffness. Could it be that he wanted to obtain more benefits? Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan exchanged glances and thought so. But very quickly, the two of them shook their heads and rejected this idea, because his tone wasn't right. Previously, it was ambiguous. Now it was resolute, though they had their concerns. Their previous concerns were that if they rejected him now, they would need to ask Fang Qingshan and the others to help them. They would have to pay a higher price. What he was worried about now was that once he started fighting with Fang Qingshan and the others, the god of poison Marquis and the others might end up benefiting from it. Actually, he didn't care whether they would benefit or not. What he cared about was if they couldn't get the secret technique to avoid the angel's 5 signs and break through to the immortal realm. That was the most important thing. What changed Hongjuan's mind in such a short time? Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan couldn't figure it out no matter how hard they thought about it. They could only trace it back to the conversation just now. Soon, an idea popped into Fang Qingshan's mind. Chapter 12:12. Could it be? Fang Qingshan thought about everything that he had said from the beginning to the end. He finally saw some clues. It seemed like Hongjun only changed its mind after they said that they wanted to leave the chaos world. Leave chaos? Leave chaos? Wasn't Hongjuan's wish to leave the chaos world? Fang Qingshan frowned, but after thinking about it, he suddenly understood. That was then, and this was now. In the past, Hongjun didn't know about the situation in the Outer Realms. Now, they were afraid that after they left the primal chaos, news of this place would leak out and attract the Outer Realms to attack the Pangu primal chaos world. Right now, Hongjun could act like a tyrant in the Pangu chaos world. But if an outsider expert came, not only would he lose his dominant position, he would become a prisoner, and it was even possible that he would die. However, Fang Qingshan felt that Hongjun was making a mountain out of a molehill and gauging the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. After all, the Pangu chaos world was their birthplace, and there were so many opportunities here. In fact, this place could even be their escape route. If they told others, what benefits would they get? However, he had forgotten that sometimes there was no need for too many goals. One was enough. Especially because of hatred, it was common for people to do things that harmed others without benefiting themselves. The Taoist is afraid that we will leak the news of this world after we leave the chaos world. Fang Qingshan said bluntly, "Let's not talk about this place, understanding emotion and moving reason." Fang Qingshan first gave a long explanation and then said, "Don't worry. Since Poison God Marquis and the others can make a great Tao oath, so can we. The Hongjun Taoist is willing to believe them, but not us." "Taoist, you misunderstood me. I just haven't made up my mind yet. I still want to wait and see how Sanqing and the others are cultivating. After all, I've already made a promise." Of course, Hongjun would not admit that he did not want Fang Qingshan and the others to leave and wanted to trap them in the desolation. He really? Fang Qingshan sneered. It seems that Hongjun has already made up his mind. Not only does he not want us to make any more breakthroughs, but we can't even leave his sight. Fang Qingshan thought to himself. This had become a situation with no solution. This was because if they did not leave the primal chaos and the desolation, it would be harder for them to improve their cultivation. Hongjuan's situation was the same, but it was better than theirs. Moreover, if he could get the Poison God Marquis and the others' secret method to avoid the Day of Decay and reach the immortal realm, it would be even better. Once Hongjun broke through, with his personality, he would definitely not let them go. And if they left the chaos world, Hongjun would expose the location of the chaos world to them and bring about a fatal disaster to him. That was why Hongjun wanted to kill him. If that's the case, then we won't disturb you any longer. There is no more opportunity for us to break through in the desolation. Today, I will leave the Pangu primal chaos with Yang Mei and the Taoist. As expected, when Fang Qingshan said that he wanted to leave the primal chaos and take out the eternal sky vessel, even though Hongjun guessed that it was just a temporary measure, he didn't dare to let his guard down and directly rejected their decision. No, the two Taoists must not leave the primal chaos world. Is that so? Why? Fang Qingshan asked with a faint smile. Because if Zhuani's guide and the others do not meet the requirements, we will need the Taoist's help. Lies came out of Hongjuan's mouth. Oof. Fang Qingshan harumphed coldly. He did not intend to continue like this. He merely glanced at Hongjun and asked expressionlessly, "We're not fools. The Hongjun Taoist need not use these pompous words to fool us. We all know each other's intentions. I only have one question for you." Hongjun Daoist, are you still willing to talk to us? Hearing this, Hongjun was speechless. Talk. He did not want Fang Qingshan and the others to benefit from it, nor did he want them to leave the chaos world. He was even prepared to kill Yang Mei and the others after dealing with the god of poison Marquis and the others. If he did not talk, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei would probably explode. Hongjun, I am willing to talk to you nicely on account that we are all from the Pan Gu Chaos Desolation. Don't be so shameless. Indeed, seeing Hongjun's hesitation, Fang Qingshan's expression changed. He narrowed his eyes, and 2 rays of cold light shot out. Do you think we are Ro, Sanqing, and the others? That we can do whatever you say? That we are completely at your mercy? First, they were afraid of us and wanted to chase us out of the untainted land. They said something like, how can we allow others to sleep beside our beds? Regarding this, we accepted it. Anyway, although the untainted land and the chaos are good, we don't want to stay here forever. However, I didn't expect that when we were about to leave, you still dared to play tricks on us. You actually tried in vain to cut off our opportunity. Not to mention the arena battle of the poison god Marquis. You actually tried in vain to make us stay in the untainted land. Do you really think that we have become soft persimmons for you to bully just because we have cultivated ourselves for all these years? Why don't you not fight with the god of poison Marquis and the others? Let's fight now. Who wins and who loses will be decided by the heavens. As he spoke, Fang Qingshan did not hesitate at all. He directly manifested the timeless Arkansas rumble. For a moment, the timeless ark hidden in his Niwen palace suddenly burst with dazzling divine light. With a loud bang, it broke through the void and descended directly into the purple cloud palace. The ferocious tentacles seemed to be able to pierce through the sky. The vast deck was not the least bit smaller than a vast thousand world. The towering tower was like the 33 layers of the sky. The masts were like pillars of the sky, stabilizing the universe. The sails fluttered in the wind, and different small worlds appeared. Countless fairies appeared out of thin air and danced around the timeless Arkansas. Sounds of nature reverberated, and countless flowers fell from the sky. Endless fragrances spread in all directions. A vast pressure poured out like a tide towards the entire purple cloud palace. Ever since the last time the timeless ark advanced to the supreme level, Fang Qingshan had not relaxed his sacrificial refining of this treasure. Although he did not improve the body's spiritual treasure, the eternal divine furnace unit was integrated into the cauldron of heaven and earth and the bell of chaos. He was one step closer to the supreme level. He still had the Khanate 5-direction flags, the 24 ranks red lotus of fire, the mirror of Samsara, the sky-measuring primordial ruler, and the chessboard of heavens. If he was in a hurry, he could directly integrate the sky-measuring primordial ruler into the divine furnace unit and the 24 ranks red lotus of fire into the timeless Arkansas. In any case, he had integrated the 3rd-rank golden lotus in the past. This way, the timeless ark could instantly advance to the supreme level. Although it might damage the foundation of the timeless ark, if he could defeat Hongjun and completely take over the chaotic world, it would be worth it. Even if he could not win, he could still make Hongjun suffer. Moreover, it was not impossible for the timeless ark to rebuild its foundation in the future. Chapter 12:13. Aha, Fang Daoist is so bold. Since that's the case, how can Yang Mei fall behind? Seeing Fang Qingshan make a move without hesitation, this was in line with Yang Mei's temperament. After Yang Mei's cultivation had recovered, although he planned to leave the chaos world, he was also prepared to collect some interest from Hongjun. It turned out that the trajectory was as such. Before Yang Mei left the Desolation Palace, he used his theurgy to devour all the spiritual treasures on Hongjun other than the Good Fortune Jade Archive, teaching him a huge lesson. After all, he was not a kind person. He was not a gentleman who did not seek revenge. He was a demon god of chaos, and his temper was even more fiery than Wu People's. It was just that he had been recuperating all these years, and there were very few things that could affect his state of mind. That was why he acted like a good person. At this moment, seeing Fang Qingshan's actions, especially when facing his old enemy, Hong Jun. New hatred and old hatred surged in his heart. Suddenly, he felt like a teenager. But Yang Mei waved his hand, and the green willow staff in his hand flew out. In an instant, it turned into a towering tree. This tree's entire body was sparkling and translucent. Whatever crystal palace was simply not worth mentioning in front of it. It was transparent to the point where it seemed even purer than the world-cleansing white lotus. It towered into the sky, a level higher than the eternal heavenly vessel. Its branches supported heaven and earth, supporting the stars, as if the entire world was under its control. The 3,000 green silk ribbons hung down like 3,000 rules. But unlike the 3,000 sky pillars in the Purple Cloud Palace, each of the sky pillars in the Purple Cloud Palace was different. The 3,000 sky pillars represented 3,000 rules, but these 3,000 willow silk ribbons represented the rules of space. They could freeze, shatter, cut, or destroy. There were so many of them, but they were all-encompassing. Damn it, seeing Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei's actions. No matter how calm Hong Jun was, he was furious. He didn't expect that the two of them would actually start fighting before he even made a move. Moreover, it was fine if he didn't make a move, but once he did, it was so shocking. Compared to the last time they fought, he was improving, but the two of them were not slow either. At the very least, although Fang Qingshan was only at the peak mid-stage primordial chaos, he felt that he was not inferior to a 10th-stage primordial chaos expert when he was equipped with the supreme level timeless Arkansas. On the other hand, Yang Mei's cultivation level was even higher. The cultivation level that he had displayed was the same as his, which was the 12th-stage primordial chaos realm. Coupled with Green Willow Staff, who was no weaker than the Purple Cloud Palace, his combat prowess put a lot of pressure on Hong Jun. At the same time, Hong Jun had to admit that the two of them had picked a good time. Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei could go crazy. They could have no scruples. They could have attacked him immediately. After all, they had nothing to lose. But not in Hong Jun. Although he felt that he had a chance of winning, it would only be a Pyrrhic victory. In particular, the two of them had only just displayed their trump cards. There was no need to mention their hidden trump cards. If it had been any other time, it would have been fine. The key was that there was still the Poison Marquis and the others. If he and Yang Mei were both injured, they would definitely take advantage of the situation. Although there was a Dao oath, but in a martial arts competition, one had to fight. Their chances of winning were not high. If he and Yang Mei were both injured and then fought with the Poison Marquis and the others, their chances of winning would almost drop to zero. When that time came, it would be like drawing water with a wicker basket and working for others. Obviously, this was not what Hong Jun wanted to see. In fact, Hong Jun had considered too much. However, one's character determined one's fate. In the past, he had calculated everything and instigated the 5 elements, yin and yang, and reversed the universe to deal with Ro. Thus, he had easily become the lord of Hong Jun Tiandao. Similarly, because of his scruples, he had not taken down Fang Qingshan immediately when the Purple Cloud Palace had begun. As a result, he had been unable to deal with the situation and had even suffered a backlash. Now, he was also hesitant about whether he should completely fall out with them. In addition, the sudden rise of Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan was also somewhat unexpected. However, he did not consider that he did not want Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei to gain any benefits, nor did he want them to leave his sight. In the end, he still wanted to kill them. Under such circumstances, anyone would have taken the initiative to gain the upper hand. After all, if Hong Jun won the bet with the Poison Marquis and the others, not only would they obtain all kinds of secret techniques from the various worlds, but they would also be rewarded by the will of the Great Path of Chaos. Their cultivation and combat power would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. At that time, Fang Qingshan would definitely be in big trouble. Since that was the case, why not take advantage of this opportunity to make a move? Although they did not have much a chance of winning, even if they failed, they could still make Hong Jun speechless. Moreover, Fang Qingshan had the all-heaven chessboard, so he had a backup plan. There was no need to worry at all. At worst, He could directly activate the all-heaven chessboard and leave Pan, Gu's chaotic world. If he caught Hong Jun by surprise, even the will of the Great Path would not be able to stop him, let alone the half-crippled Hong Jun. Huh. Although the attack of Yang Mei and the others was somewhat unexpected, since they had made a move, Hong Jun naturally could not remain indifferent. He opened his mouth and spat out a voice that split the sky. Suddenly, a crystal-clear jade archive flew out from the top of his head. Within the jade archive, countless clear and melodious heavenly sounds reverberated continuously. Talismans of the Great Path continuously shone with the divine brilliance of the Great Path. Countless heavenly sounds reverberated, and countless secret techniques flashed within the Jade Archive. The 3,000 sky pillars of the Great Path in the Purple Cloud Palace seemed to have instantly solidified due to the appearance of this Jade Archive. After the Jade Archive appeared, it did not fight against the Timeless Ark and the Green Willow Staff. Instead, it turned into a crystal-clear stream of light and instantly rushed into the Purple Cloud Palace. The Purple Cloud Palace was originally a spiritual treasure of chaos. It was the treasure of the Great Path of Hong Jun, just like the three-gem Rui was to the primeval Lord of Heaven. It was not inferior to Yang Mei's Green Willow Staff. The Jade Disc of Fate was even better. It was essentially a treasure of chaos. Although it was broken, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse, especially after it evolved into a divine artifact of Hong Jun Tiandao. It had faintly regained some of its former might. However, the Jade Disc of Fate was different from the Pearl of Chaos, the Heaven-Splitting Axe, and the Green Lotus of Creation. It was not an offensive or defensive treasure, so its might was not obvious. However, after it was integrated into the Purple Cloud Palace, the situation was very different. It could be seen that the 3,000 sky pillars of the Great Path in the Purple Cloud Palace, except for a few that had solidified, were originally illusory existences. However, after the Jade Disc of Fate was added, almost 80% of them instantly solidified. Ding, ding, ding! For a moment, countless heavenly sounds of the Great Path reverberated, filling every inch of the Purple Cloud Palace. Boundless Taoist rhymes rose into the air, releasing millions of rays of light. They turned into bells, dragons, phoenixes, and all sorts of strange phenomena. Wisps of auspicious light and auspicious chi entwined, evolving into heavenly flowers and golden lotuses that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The entire Purple Cloud Palace looked exceptionally majestic. For a moment, the vast pressure was like the Milky Way flowing in reverse, pouring down on Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Although the Green Willow Staff and the Timeless Ark were not bad, they seemed to be somewhat overwhelmed. Chapter 12:14. What a good Hong Jun. He's really amazing. Seeing that the Timeless Ark and the Green Willow Staff were being suppressed, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan did not show the slightest change in their expressions. After all, although the Timeless Ark was extraordinary, it was currently only at the supreme level, and it had not reached the peak of the supreme level. The Green Willow Staff was just a spiritual treasure that Yang Mei had refined with a branch. Just like Juni's Tree of Seven Wonders, although mysterious, it was at most comparable to the Purple Cloud Palace. Compared to the Fate Jade Disc, it was already a level lower, let alone the fusion of two spiritual treasures. Hong Jun was Hong Jun after all. They had endless tricks up their sleeves. They had not even directly made a move. Just by fusing the two spiritual treasures, they had already unleashed such great power. Sure enough, they were improving, and their progress was not slower than yours. It was fortunate that this was the case. If Hong Jun did not have such tricks up their sleeves, they would have been easily suppressed and agreed to his suggestion. Fang Qingshan and the Green Willow Staff would probably have been alarmed. They would have wondered if he was pretending to be weak and was secretly plotting something. They did not expect the Purple Cloud Palace and the Fate Jade Disc to be able to fuse into one, and the power was so great that the aura alone made the timeless arc and the green willow staff feel like they were facing a treasure of the chaos. However, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan did not panic. You have the white jade pillar, and I have the purple gold beam. Hong Jun could fuse the fate jade disc and the purple cloud palace into one, unleashing unprecedented power. Did they not have any tricks up their sleeves since they dared to make a move in the purple cloud palace? Since they dared to go to the Liangshan, how could they not have some tricks up their sleeves? Fuse. Yang Mei shook his body and turned into a willow tree that was similar to the green willow staff, but taller. This tree was so big that it was difficult to find a second tree that could compare to it in the entire desolation or even in the entire chaos. This was Yang Mei's true form, the chaos spiritual root, Hollow Willow. Compared to the past, not only were there no obvious scars on the surface of Yang Mei's body, even the hideous Dao injuries in his body had healed a lot. Even the divine, baleful qi and the will to split the heavens and destroy the earth were almost undetectable. This also meant that Yang Mei's injuries had mostly healed, and the remaining bit was no longer important. He just needed to recuperate. Apart from that, Yang Mei's body was surrounded by a faint, almost indiscernible, eternal aura. This aura was exactly the same as the aura of the everlasting lotus. This matter had to be related to the first great battle between the liches and demons. Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan joined hands and killed the prestige of Hong Jun. However, because of blocking Hong Jun, Yang Mei's injuries relapsed. In order to thank Yang Mei and also to help himself, Fang Qingshan intercepted an eternal blessing and gave it to Yang Mei, hoping that he could comprehend something from it and speed up the recovery of his injuries. Although the amount of eternal blessings given to him wasn't much, it wasn't the quantity that mattered. The most important thing was still to comprehend the profound mysteries within. Yang Mei was indeed the top chaos fiend celestial. In the entire chaos, apart from Pangu, no one dared to say that they could surpass him. He was a primordial chaos level 12 expert, and even a half-step immortal expert. Moreover, he had experienced the heaven-opening tribulation. Although it was not the Deva's 5 decays, he had survived. Naturally, there could be no construction without destruction. After destruction, there could be a qualitative breakthrough in his cultivation and Tao heart. As expected, he did not disappoint everyone and comprehended a trace of the eternal aura. In this way, although his cultivation did not break through, his injuries were almost healed. Now, when he fought, he could use at least 95% of his strength. Even if he used all his strength, he did not have to worry about his injuries worsening. Originally, he thought that after successfully passing the tribulation, the difficulty of Yang Mei's future breakthroughs would be greatly reduced. Now, because he had comprehended the eternal aura, it was possible that Yang Mei and Hong Jun would obtain the secret method to avoid the Deva's 5 decays and break through to the immortal realm together. Yang Mei would break through faster and easier than Hong Jun. Hong Jun was also well aware of this. Therefore, he had once wanted to drive Yang Mei out of the desolation. It was not just because he could not allow others to sleep soundly next to his bed. Previously, he had hesitated and did not want to let Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan join in. The main reason was that he could suppress Rahu, Yin Yang, and the 5 elements, and overturn heaven and earth, but he did not have the confidence to suppress Yang Mei. After all, Yang Mei was the only one who had survived the 3,000 demon gods. Old antique, even Pangu had died, but he was still alive. This point alone was enough to make him stand out from the masses and make people look up to him. After Yang Mei revealed the Hollow Willow, Fang Qingshan did not idle around. He also used his trump card. A go board moved like a star and flew out from between Fang Qingshan's eyebrows. In the blink of an eye, it grew from small to large and from illusory to real. Although this go board was called a go board, for some reason, it looked very similar to the Zodion star array diagram. In fact, it seemed more like a star chart than anything else. In other words, it was a miniature version of the boundless void, the myriad of heavens and realms. with the boundless void as the background, as the go board, and the myriad of heavens and realms as the chess pieces. The stars moved. Of course, this go board could not achieve this yet. Right now, it only used the primal chaos as the go board and desolation, the major kiliacosm, the medium kiliacosm, and the minor kiliacosm as the chess pieces. However, if the all-heaven chessboard were to evolve to that level one day, it might even surpass the eternal green lotus. Even though it had not reached that level yet, it was still shocking enough. This was because it was simply a miniature version of Pan Gu's primal chaos. The appearance of this go board was exactly the same as when Hong Jun took out the Good Fortune Jade Disc. It did not directly fight against the Purple Cloud Palace. Instead, it instantly appeared in the core control room of the Timeless Ark, which was also the place where the Eternal Divine Furnace and the Eternal Lightning Pool were located. After entering, there was no hesitation. With a whoosh, the Go board merged with the Eternal Lightning Pool. Rumble. In the instant that the Go board and the Timeless Ark fused, there seemed to be no barriers between them. It was as if they were one, and they were in perfect harmony. Invisible threads spread out like a spider's web, covering the entire Timeless Arkansas. Before the fusion, the Lightning Gathering Pagoda and the Eternal Lightning Pool's power wasn't slow. However, they had to refine the skyship and provide it with power at the same time. The moment they started fighting, they could only circulate their stored power normally. After the fusion, the situation was very different. Thousands of different but dense auras of origin energy gathered from the void. The Lightning Gathering Tower swallowed the power of chaos and converted it into lightning chi at a rate that was more than 10 times faster. This was like how spiritual chi in the past was like rain. Now, spiritual chi had solidified and crystallized. Once it exploded, its power would be completely different. Chapter 12:15. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound erupted. With the integration of the Heaven chessboard, the Timeless Ark seemed to have been injected with adrenaline. It instantly grew in size and caught up with the hollow willow in a flash. The entire space in the Purple Cloud Palace creaked as if it was about to shatter. Those who did not know would think that the Timeless Ark had once again undergone a metamorphosis and broken through from the supreme level to the supreme level. Good Lord, the energy stored in the Eternal Thunder Pool was increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Moreover, the quality had also improved significantly. If the Eternal Thunder Pool was said to be as big as an ocean in the past, it had only been filled with 1/3 of seawater. Now, in the blink of an eye, it had accumulated to 2/3, and it did not stop. It continued to increase. In terms of quality, it cannot be said that there was a difference between acquired spirit chi and connate spirit chi, or between connate spirit chi and chaos spirit chi. However, the difference between them was like the difference between ordinary connate spirit chi and connate spirit chi. The spiritual power had both quantity and quality. How could the entire Timeless Ark not change when it was operating the Timeless Ark? The volume was increasing, the tower was getting taller, the deck was getting wider, and the mast was becoming more solid, thick, and firm. The world in the sail was getting bigger, and the speed of the Timeless Ark was increasing. Although the change was not as great as the transformation to the supreme level, overall, the power of the Timeless Ark had increased by more than 5 levels. One should not underestimate the 5 levels, which did not even double, but one had to see the original power of the Timeless Arkansas. In the past, Fong Qingshan had relied on the Timeless Ark to run amok in the late-stage Primordial Chaos realm and contend with 10th-stage Primordial Chaos realm and even 11th-stage Primordial Chaos realm. Now that the Timeless Ark had increased by 5 levels, it was not impossible for it to run amok in the peak Primordial Chaos realm. It could not defeat a 12th-stage Primordial Chaos realm, but it would not be without the power to fight back. In other words, if Hong Jun did not borrow the power of Hong Jun Tiandao, Fong Qingshan could fight him alone. Hong Jun merged the Creation Jade Disc and the Purple Cloud Palace into one to increase their combat power. Fong Qingshan followed suit and fused the All-Heaven chessboard with the Timeless Arkansas fortunately. These two spiritual treasures were his natal treasures. Their origins were connected, so it was almost natural for them to fuse together. If it weren't for the fact that Fang Qingshan couldn't bear to part with it, or if it weren't for the fact that he was ambitious and wanted to get both, he would have already fused the All-Heavens chessboard and the Timeless Ark together. However, the Timeless Ark could grow to the level of the eternal god Lotus, and every time it improved, it would receive the blessing of eternity. Not only could it increase one's cultivation level, but it was also like a guiding light on the path of cultivation, illuminating one's path. As long as the All-Heavens chessboard had enough luck, it could also evolve into another myriad world, just like in its previous ideal state. In the past, it could easily traverse between the various minor kiliacosm and medium kiliacosm. Later, it could traverse between the major kiliacosm and desolation. Now, it could even traverse between the two sides of the chaos. In the future, if it really reached the ideal state, Fang Qingshan could even leave the infinite void and enter the primordial world, which had long disappeared according to legend, or even the origin world. It should be known that these two higher-level worlds were places that many god kings and god emperors dreamed of but could not reach. And now, Fang Qingshan had basically obtained an admission ticket in advance. Once people found out, he was afraid that he would really become the enemy of the whole world, and there would be no way out. This could be considered as a person who was not content to be like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. For ordinary people, it was already a great fortune to have one such treasure, but Fang Qingshan had two. Fortunately, the resources required to upgrade these two spiritual treasures were different. The Timeless Ark did not reject anything. It looked at Mosquito Dowrin. However, because it could not reduce the foundation of the Timeless Ark, the quality of the items fused with it had to be improved along with the Timeless Ark and Sa. Moreover, it had to have a special purpose. Therefore, although Fang Qingshan had all sorts of treasures in his possession, he did not fuse them all with the Timeless Ark and Sa. On the other hand, the All-Heavens chessboard only needed luck. As long as there was enough luck, the All-Heavens chessboard could continuously upgrade and traverse to any world it wanted. What's wrong? Are you two Taoists really prepared to fight me to the death? Hong Jun had fused the Good Fortune Jade Archive with the Purple Cloud Palace, not because he wanted to shed all pretense of cordiality and roll up his sleeves to fight. He only wanted to intimidate Yang, Mei, and Mosquito Dowrin. However, he did not expect that it would aggravate the conflict, or that Yang, Mei, and Mosquito Dowrin had seen through his true strength, so they used violence to counter violence, and once again used a powerful method to fight against him. Hong Juan's face suddenly became so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip water. It's not that we want to fight you to the death. It's that you're not giving us a way out. You're forcing us into a dead end. Fang Qingshan laughed coldly. I know that you're probably still holding a grudge against me for using the Timeless Ark to plot against you, causing your death and Hong Jun Tiandao to suffer heavy losses. This is probably the biggest loss you've ever suffered in your life. If you don't destroy me, there will always be a knot in your heart that you won't be able to let go. Furthermore, you're worried that we'll leave the desolation and leave the Pan-Gu primal chaos. We'll leak the news and attract the immortal realm experts, causing you to suffer heavy losses or even die. Let's not talk about the cause and effect of the former. It's human nature. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. If you want to fight, I'll fight you to the end. Although my cultivation base isn't as high as yours, and you won't even need to use Hong Jun Tiandao's blessing. To be honest, I'm not afraid at all. Although you're powerful, it'll be easy for you to defeat me. If you want to keep me here, Fang Qingshan snorted arrogantly and continued. As for the latter, do you think that everything will be fine if you keep us in the desolation? As long as you take care of the god of Poison Marquis and the others, then destroy us, then you'll have nothing to worry about? You're dreaming. Yang Mei, Taoist, can even avoid the great calamity of creation. Do you really think he doesn't have any tricks up his sleeves? Do you really think you can keep him here? If you don't kill the snake, you'll be punished. There's still room for negotiation now, but if it really comes to that, even a little bit of news will be enough to throw you into the abyss of hell. As for me, I don't know if you still remember what I said before. My understanding of the boundless void was completed through the ruins. Since I can gather information through the ruins, I can naturally spread information through the ruins as well. As long as you don't destroy me and the ruins immediately, do you think it'll be hard for me to leak the news? Listening to Fong Qingshan's words, which sounded like a hail of bullets, Hong Juan's expression became more and more awkward. This was because what Fong Qingshan said hit his soft spot. There were many things that he hadn't thought of, or had thought of, but had subconsciously ignored. But now that it was laid bare in front of him, even if he didn't think about it, he had to consider it. Chapter 12:16. What happens now will depend on your decision. Looking at Hong Juan's defeated expression, Fong Qingshan and Yang Mei were very pleased. Previously, they had spoken nicely but were not persuaded. They would only be satisfied when everyone was in a difficult position. Since that was the case, if you don't let us have it easy, I won't let you have it easy either. Let's do it together. Fong Qingshan was not at all worried that Hong Juan would turn against him. For one, he was confident that he could escape unscathed. With his capabilities and confidence, he was naturally not afraid of any outcome. For another, he knew Hong Juan very well. He knew that unless he was 90% confident, or if the disadvantages outweighed the advantages, he would think twice before acting. To put in good terms, it was better to be safe than sorry. To put it in bad terms, it was better to be safe than sorry. Therefore, Fong Qingshan did not give him time to think at all and urged him. It was as if Hong Juan said to fight to the death, he would immediately act. Sure enough, Hong Juan's character was almost grasped by him. Just as he thought, Hong Juan did not have the courage to fight with his life on the line and cut off all means of retreat. Other things aside, the fact that Fong Qingshan sent the message through the market really caught him off guard. Not just him. Even if the will of the Great Path made a move, it would be impossible to kill Fong Qingshan immediately and cause the market to collapse so that no news could get out. This also meant that not only would he not be able to avenge himself, but he would also not be able to control Fong Qingshan's group, even with the marquee of poison and the others' opportunities. Instead, he had fallen into a passive position. He was being controlled at every turn. Fortunately, just like how Fong Qingshan and the others knew Hong Juan also knew them very well. They knew that Hong Juan liked to plan ahead and only act when he was absolutely certain. Hong Juan also knew that they would not fight to the death unless it was absolutely necessary. Today's gesture was just like what he had planned before. He wanted to intimidate the other party and at the same time, gain benefits for himself. Therefore, he wasn't afraid. Therefore, he didn't bow down to Fong Qingshan and Ling Xian. You want me to make a decision? Hee hee. Hong Juan thought for a while and sneered. Do I have any other decisions? You guys can expose the news of Pangu chaos at any time. I won't be able to bear the consequences. Hong Juan first mocked and ridiculed him. After a pause, he changed the topic and spoke in a resolute tone. However, don't be complacent. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you've grasped my weakness. I can allow you to join us, and I can also agree not to go against the sea of blood lineage in the future. I can even promise him same. But at the same time, you have to swear a great Tao oath that you must not reveal any information about the chaos of Pangu, whether intentionally or not. Even if you fall into the hands of others in the future and have your soul searched, you must not reveal anything. Hee hee, if that day really comes, do you think any oath would still be useful? Fong Qingshan shook his head, but didn't say anything. He knew that Hong Juan was merely trying to save face. As for using the market to send messages at any time to manipulate Hong Juan, Fong Qingshan had never thought about that. Cornered beasts would do something desperate. Though Hong Juan was cautious, it didn't mean he wasn't decisive. If he really dared to do that, Hong Juan would probably make a move right now. Daozu, don't worry. We all know that if we cooperate, we'll both benefit. If we split, we'll both lose. We won't do anything stupid. Fong Qingshan softly chuckled. If that's the case, then let's swear a great Tao oath. That way, you won't have to worry and I won't have to worry. Hong Juan took a deep breath and suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart. All right, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei looked at each other and nodded at the same time. This was the best solution. Hongjun didn't trust them, and they didn't trust Hongjun either. In the name of the great Tao, today I, Hongjun, swear that if Fang Qingshan, Yang Mei, and the others don't leak the information about the Pangu Chaos World, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I promise not to make things difficult for the Sea of Blood lineage. I won't stop them from leaving the Chaos World, and I won't stop them from participating in the arena battle against the god of Poison Marquis and the others. In the name of the great Tao, today I, Yang Mei, and Fang Qingshan swear that if Hongjun can fulfill his promise, we won't leak the information about the Pangu Chaos World, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Those who violate this promise will die under the Angel's Decay 5, and they won't be able to achieve immortality. Since that's the case, go back and prepare yourself. When drinking with a bosom friend, 1,000 cups are not enough. When the conversation is not agreeable, half a sentence is too much. After making the vow, Hongjun now did not talk to Fang Qingshan and the others. He did not even want to look at them or even think about them. He directly began to chase them away. In response, Fang Qingshan shrugged. Hongjun didn't want to see them. Were they willing to be snubbed? He smiled at Yang Mei, put away the spiritual treasures, turned around, and walked out of the Purple Cloud Palace. Then, he returned to the Desolation Hall. Looking at the disappearing silhouettes of the two, Hongjun secretly sulked. However, he could only swallow his anger. Who asked him to be helpless against the two of them? At the same time, he had no choice but to send a voice transmission to Sanqing and the others, informing them of the consensus they had just reached so that they could be mentally prepared. Yang Mei, Fang Qingshan, and Mosquito Daoren will participate in the arena battle. Take care of yourselves. Upon hearing this, Sanqing and the others, who had been immersed in the Tao and could not extricate themselves from it, felt the overall changes, realm, cultivation, understanding of the Tao, and application. They were so happy that they were flying. In particular, they knew that if nothing went wrong, Hongjun, Yang Mei, and Fang Qingshan would represent the mid-stage primordial chaos. Mosquito Daoren, Ro, and Hutu would represent the early-stage primordial chaos. The remaining 3 positions would be between them and Sanqing. The gap between them and Sanqing was not a big deal, but the most important thing was the gap between their supreme treasures. Laozi held the Taiji diagram in his hand and the heaven and earth exquisite yellow pagoda above his head. He was simply a turtle shell. Heavenly Venerate of origin sat on thousands of golden lamps and waved the Pangu banner, which was both offensive and defensive. Sect Master Tong Tian spread out the immortal slaying sword array, which could be broken by anyone below the 4 saints. Sigh. At the thought of this, the 3 of them could not help but sigh. Different people had different fates. They knew that their chances were slim. As for blaming and blaming others, regardless of whether it was Hongjun, Yang Mei, or Fang Qingshan, they could not afford to provoke them. More importantly, was complaining useful? It's my fortune to get it, but it's my fate to lose it. That's fine. In the end, Jieyin's temperament is still higher. He is the existence that I fear the most among the sages. If it wasn't for the fact that I don't have a supreme treasure in my hands, I might not be able to suppress him. He quickly adjusted his mentality. At the same time, he advised Junie, Junior brother, don't be too stubborn. Let's leave everything to fate. Even Daozu treats the people from the outer domain so cautiously. How can it be so easy to deal with? We'll do our best and leave it to fate. Chapter 12:17. But I still can't accept it, Juanti said with a twisted expression. This heavenly road's fortuitous opportunity is not only related to mixed origin cultivation, but also to the immortal realm. If we miss this opportunity, I'm afraid there won't be another one. We can't compare to Sanqing and the others. If we let them obtain the fortuitous opportunity, I'm afraid we'll never be able to catch up, just like Ro and Daozu. Junior brother, you're wrong, Jane said emotionlessly. A great calamity means a great fortuitous opportunity, and a great fortuitous opportunity also means a great tribulation. Although this fortuitous opportunity is good, it's still a problem whether they can obtain it or not. Right now, they've only obtained an entrance ticket. If it's really easy to deal with, why would Daozu be so cautious and even let Yang Mei and the others join? Therefore, even if they go, they might not necessarily win. If they win, they'll certainly gain a lot, but if they lose, it'll be even more painful, especially since the West is already barren and can't afford to suffer. Senior brother, you're right. Hearing this, Zhuanti was shocked. His body trembled, and he sobered up. Yes, he only saw that the West needed this fortuitous opportunity, but he didn't see that it also couldn't afford to suffer. Just now, Zhuanti had been blinded by the fortuitous opportunity and his greed. In fact, he couldn't be blamed. After all, the fortuitous opportunity represented by the divine poison marquis and the others was too tempting. Not to mention them, even Hong Jun, Yang Mei, and Fang Qingshan couldn't bear to part with it. Fortunately, he had an extraordinary guide by his side. Cunny took a deep breath and then exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He dispelled the unwillingness in his mind and calmed his mind. Seeing Zhuanti's eyes become clear, Jane couldn't help but nod inwardly. The Buddhist scriptures had said that without greed, anger, and delusion, one would be a Buddha, and with greed, one would be immortal. However, even Buddhas were not without desires. It was just that the value of the things they cared about was different. Fortunately, Zhuanti came to his senses in time. Not to mention anything else, just the improvement of his temperament made this trip worthwhile. If I can go, I'll just treat it as a chance to broaden my horizons. If I can't go, at least I can enjoy some of Hong Jun Tiandao's luck and laws. Seeing that Zhuanti had recovered, Jie Yin spoke again. Ba, senior brother is right. Junior brother has been blinded. With Jane's guidance, Zhuanti quickly came back to his senses, as if a burden had been lifted from his body. In the past, his primordial spirit's perception of Hong Jun Tiandao was like looking at flowers in a fog, but now it felt exceptionally clear. Zhuanti was delighted. He knew that the improvement of his state of mind had stimulated his perception. Without hesitation, he hurriedly and Jane began to use Hong Jun Tiandao's luck to comprehend the laws and great Tao without any distractions. On the other hand, Nua's temperament was not as good as Jane's. She was alone and had no one to remind her, so she was restless. In a short period of time, she could not even compare to Zhuanti. Just as Nua was worrying about her gains and losses, Jane and Zhuanti were thinking that it was his luck if he could get it, and Sanqing was conceited and calm. What they did not know was that none of them had obtained a recommendation. That was because Fang Qingshan and the others did not only have 3 people. In addition to Yang Mei, Fang Qingshan, and Mosquito Dowrin, there was also a World Tree incarnation. Although his cultivation level had just broken through to primordial chaos, in terms of combat power, even mid-stage primordial chaos could not do anything to him, let alone early-stage primordial chaos. He was a proper primordial chaos expert. Moreover, because of his cultivation level, he was very deceptive. It was easy to catch his opponents off guard and catch them off guard. Of course, even Hong Jun himself did not know, let alone Sanqing and the others. He thought that there were only Fang Qingshan, Yang Mei, and Mosquito Dowrin, but he did not know that there was another primordial chaos expert right under his nose. In fact, the reason why Fang Qingshan was so persistent in joining was because other than the fact that the Poison God Marquis and the others were in control of the cultivation arts and secret arts that they needed, they could further perfect their own time immemorial cultivation arts, Tao Verification Art of the Heavens, Blood Sea Sutra, etc. These could pave the path to immortality. At the same time, if they were victorious, they could also obtain the blessing of the essence will of chaos. This was another huge wave of karmic luck and karma. Naturally, Fang Qingshan would not let this opportunity slip by. After all, the light from Providence needed to advance in the heavenly chessboard was too much. Even if he could not continue to break through, he could have one more life-saving trump card if he had a little more. Why not? Especially when they were about to leave the chaos and enter the boundless void. It should be known that the place was not like the desolation. In the desolation, they could get whatever they wanted. In the boundless void, they could only behave with their tails between their legs. Otherwise, one wrong step would lead them into a bottomless abyss. Putting all this aside, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei went their separate ways after returning to the desolation. Yang Mei returned to the East Sea to continue comprehending the eternal Tao runes, hoping to gain more. After returning to the Blood Sea, Fang Qingshan began to make plans for the Black Tortoise. On the human clan's side, after Qiyu had attained the human emperor realm, he had passed the throne to Xuanyuan's descendant, the High Sun clan. From then on, the human clan's 3 sovereigns were perfected and entered the 5 emperors period. When the High Sun clan was in power, a major event happened. That was Cangjie's word creation. According to the original track, Cangjie's word creation should have happened during the reign of the human emperor Xuanyuan. He was the left historian of the Yellow Emperor's word creation. He had 2 pupils and 4 eyes. He was born with wisdom. After observing the movement trend of the stars and the footprints of birds and beasts, he was inspired to collect, organize, and use them. However, it was not Xuanyuan who had attained the human emperor realm, but Qiyu. Because of the opportunity on the way of heaven, Qiyu attained the human emperor realm and immediately passed the throne to the High Sun clan. Therefore, Cangjie became the left historian of the High Sun clan. Fortunately, the inertia of history was still strong. Although there was a slight deviation, it was back on the right track. Cangjie's word creation meant that the human clan had ended the poor memory of knotting knots and created the foundation of civilization. From then on, the human clan had its own word, which could record the achievements of the human clan's ancestors, record the foundation of governing the human clan, and make the lineage of the human clan clear and traceable. Contributions to the present generation would benefit the future generations. This was naturally a good thing for the human clan, but it might not be the case for other clans. Fortunately, the human clan was now dominant. Even if the sages were not included, the 3 sovereigns and 3 ancestors alone were enough to make others flinch. Moreover, the others were busy digesting the opportunity on the way of heaven and had no time to care about other things. With the help of the fate of a human clan, Cangjie survived the disaster. Because of the word creation, Cangjie became the first ancestor of the human clan, second only to the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. With merit, he instantly became a sage-to-be from an ordinary person. Moreover, as long as the human clan's word didn't disappear, his fate would last for a long time. In the future, it might be possible for him to catch up with the 3 sovereigns. At the same time, he also obtained 2 top merit spiritual treasures, the Spring and Autumn Brush and the Dictionary, which were not weaker than the Swearing Lamp. Chapter 12:18. Cangjie's creation of characters not only helped himself, but also perfected the human Tao and benefited future generations. At the same time, he also helped a person, and that person was Gaoyang. Compared to the 3 sovereigns, it was easier for Gaoyang to become the human sovereign, but at the same time, the environment he faced was more complicated. Not only did he have to deal with the mess left by the son of Shinnong, but he also had to deal with the stray dogs left by Xuanyuan and the proud soldiers of the Zhuli tribe. Most importantly, he was a descendant of Xuanyuan. Fuxi and Shinnong became the human sovereign because they convinced the masses, while Qiyu became the human sovereign through fighting. Although the Gaoyang clan had the support of Xuanyuan, Xuanyuan himself was a failure. Therefore, his position as the emperor of the human realm was not stable, especially the 81 tribes of the Zhuli clan who followed Qiyu to conquer the world. Moreover, because of the example of Xuanyuan and Qiyu, everyone understood that the position of the human sovereign was not the end. It was not that it could not be fought for, but that only those who could occupy it could occupy it. Therefore, not only did some people obey Gaoyang's orders, there were also some people like the son of Shinnong who always thought about how to drive him away and become the human sovereign themselves. Fortunately, there was only one Qiyu, and Gaoyang was not easy to deal with. Especially with Cangjie's creation of characters, It was like the mandate of heaven, which greatly increased Gao Yang's prestige among the human race. After all, this happened during his reign, so it was naturally his merit. And this merit was so great that it affected the entire development of the human race. Therefore, by borrowing this momentum, the High Sun clan was able to gain a firm foothold. This person was worthy of being the destined human sovereign. He lacked both means and wisdom. Coupled with the careful guidance of many treasures, he grew very fast. His actions were like the horns of an antelope hanging on an antelope's horn, unfathomable, but just right. He spread his glory to the entire human race in a short period of time. Yes, Fuxi and Qiyu had the surest sovereign behind them. Shennong had the great master Xiandu behind him, and Xianyuan had Guang Chengzi behind him. As the head of the 5 emperors, Gao Yang naturally had people behind him. Although many treasures and the others were attracted by the opportunity on the heavenly road, they were only zenith heaven golden immortals, so they soon failed. Seeing this, many treasures naturally knew that he could not force it, so he immediately returned to assist Gao Yang. Firstly, this was a benefit that Tong Tian had fought for him with great difficulty. He naturally couldn't waste it and let down his teacher's painstaking efforts. Secondly, assisting the High Sun family was beneficial to the development of Jie school in the human race. Furthermore, assisting a human sovereign was a meritorious deed that could be obtained. Although the opportunity on the heavenly road was regrettable, if one could obtain the human sovereign's meritorious deed, it could be considered a loss on the swings and a gain on the mulberry. Perhaps he could make use of this to become a quasi-sage like the great Taoist Master Xiandu, of course. Guang Qingzi was just unlucky. As for the High Sun clan, after stabilizing their foothold, they naturally began to boldly and decisively govern the human race. This was to reconcile the conflict between the Julili tribe and the other human tribes, and also to appease them. Therefore, the High Sun clan carried out an important religious reformation. In the past, in addition to their ancestors, the human race also worshipped various totems, one of which was the 12 Yuan Shun. The only ones that could be worshipped together were the Holy Mother of the human race, Niuhua, the sect master of the human race, Laozi, and the 3 ancestors of the human race, Youchao Shi and Zhi. Later, as the 3 sovereigns proved the way, Fuxi, Shennong, and Qiyu were added. Apart from them, many virtuous sages of the human race could not be included. This time, the High Sun clan had 2 new members. One of them was the word ancestor, Cangjie, who had just attained Tao. The other one was the Earth God who followed the footsteps of the Earth Empress in the sky-bearing empire, who was actually the Earth ancestor. Cangjie had nothing to say. After all, he was the word ancestor. Although his meritorious deed was not as good as that of the 3 ancestors of the human race and the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, with the development of humanity, the more prosperous it was, the greater his meritorious deed would be, and the more benefits he would get. As for Hutu, it was not unexpected. After all, Hutu was a sage, and his body had transformed into reincarnation. He had great compassion for the world, controlled yin and yang, nurtured all living things, and was one of the 6 royals of the heavenly court. Although this was just a small action, it greatly flattered the Juli tribe and eased the internal conflict of the human race. It was really beneficial, but not useless. Of course, this was for the High Sun clan, or the current High Sun clan. However, it was not good news for Laozi and the others. After all, worshipping Hutu was not as simple as worshipping her. They would also share the fate. Fortunately, in general, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. After controlling the human race and reconciling the conflict left by Xianyuan and Qiyu, the High Sun clan's first step was to create a calendar. Since they had won over the Juli tribe, they naturally could not disappoint the Yuxiong tribe. Using the 12 primordial stars as the foundation, they created the 24 solar terms. This method not only appeased the old subordinates of Xianyuan, but also roped in the 12 primordial stars that guarded the human race. The battle between Xianyuan and Qiyu ended with Qiyu's victory. The 12 primordial stars were defeated. If they were not the guardian beasts of humanity, they would have died long ago. Even so, it was impossible for them to recover without tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. Fortunately, as the High Sun clan created the 24 solar terms, they obtained a fate to speed up the recovery of their injuries. They could even use it to improve their cultivation in the future. As such, how could they not be loyal to the High Sun clan? The emergence of the 24 solar terms was not just that. It also systematically summarized the changes in seasons, climate, phenology, and other aspects of a year, which had a great effect on the production of crops. Moreover, from then on, the human race did not need to use the Fouchier trigrams. They would also be familiar with the ordinary weather and climate changes. Apart from the calendar, the High Sun clan made another great contribution, which was the division of the 9 prefectures. Yes, the division of the 9 prefectures, Yin, Ji, Qing, Su, Yu, Jing, Yang, Yong, and Liang, was done by the High Sun clan, not by Yu the Great. Although Yu the Great refined the 9 prefectures' cauldrons, the 9 prefectures were not divided by him. Of course, there are also people who said that it was Xian Yuan who divided the 9 prefectures. 8 families made a well, 3 wells made a neighbor, 3 neighbors made a friend, 3 friends made a mile, 5 miles made a city, 10 cities made a capital, 10 cities made a division, and 10 divisions made a prefecture. The whole country was divided into 9 prefectures. But now, Xian Yuan was defeated by Qi Yu, so this matter was naturally left unsettled. If it was the High Sun clan, it would be reasonable. After the High Sun clan divided the 9 prefectures, the various races of Jiu Li and Yu Xiong were finally united. It was unknown whether it was because they were following the example of their ancestors, or because music was an indispensable thing, but because of the Fuxi zither. Fuxi invented the zither and composed music. Shenong followed closely behind. He cut the pines to make the zither, knotted silk to make the strings, and created the 5-string zither to entertain the common people. His great ancestor Xian Yuan also used the bamboo of the valley to make a flute and set the 5 notes and 12 temperaments, which were combined today. Therefore, the High Sun clan also liked the sound. They ordered the flying dragon to imitate the sound of the 8 winds, and named it Cheng Yun as a sacrifice to God. Chapter 12:19. After 78 years on the throne, Gaoyang achieved great success and received merits from heaven. However, compared to the merits of Renhuang of Fuxi, Shenong, and Qi Yu, Gaoyang was much worse. In fact, this was normal. After all, there were 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. The 3 sovereigns were at the front, and the 5 emperors were at the back. The 3 sovereigns had already opened up the situation. As long as they followed the rules, there would be no big problem. This was also the benefit of the predecessors. Then, there was his contribution. Compared to Fuxi, who helped the human race avoid natural disasters, and Shenong, who helped the human race to start farming, no longer being restricted by relying on the mountains and rivers, Qi Yu unified the human race and greatly increased their cohesiveness. Gaoyang was obviously not as good as the first 3. It was not that he did not make any contribution, nor was it that his contribution was small. However, compared to the decisive contribution of the other 3, his contribution seemed a bit ordinary. Therefore, although Gaoyang achieved the fruit of the way of Renhuang, the merit and luck that came was only about 60% of that of the 3 sovereigns. This was because Sangye created the characters and counted him as a part of the merit. Otherwise, it would be even less. Therefore, Gaoyang's cultivation barely broke through to the late stage of sage to be, and then he was weak. In this regard, although Gaoyang was unwilling, he had no choice but to accept it. Compared to his ancestor, Xian Yuan, he was already considered good. At least he achieved the fruit of the way of Renhuang, and his cultivation reached the late stage of sage to be, which was not as good as Xian Yuan. Xian Yuan failed to compete for the position of the human emperor. Not only did he lose his status, but his cultivation was also a problem. Without the luck and merits of the human emperor, he had not even become a zenith heaven golden immortal, let alone a sage to be. Like Gaoyang, many treasures also had some regrets. As a human emperor, Gaoyang's merits were not as good as those of the three sovereigns. As the teacher of human emperor, many treasures naturally could not be compared to Shura sovereign and Xuandu great master. However, there was no harm without comparison. Although Duo Bao felt regretful compared to the Azura emperor and the great Taoist master Xiandu, he should be glad compared to Guang Chengzi. Happiness was built on the pain of others. Thinking of Guang Chengzi, Duo Bao felt much more at ease. After all, not only did Guang Chengzi not get the human sovereign merit, but he also got into trouble and was contaminated with a lot of karma. Although the fuse of the Great War of Deification in the future was Hao Yan's complaint, the cause was that the 12 disciples of the heavenly Lord Yuanshi committed the sin of the mortal world and were punished with death. The main reason for this was because of the karma of the Battle of Zhuolu. On the other hand, after absorbing the merits of the human sovereign's master, his cultivation base had reached the pinnacle of the grand heavenly realm, even though he did not break through to the demi-saint realm. He believed that it would only take him another 1,000 or 10,000 years to break through to the demi-saint realm. At the very least, it was much better than his original trajectory of not breaking through to the demi-saint realm when he reached the apotheosis of gods. As the leader of the 5 emperors, Xuanxiu, like the 3 sovereigns, went to Phoenix Mountain to live in seclusion after he proved his Tao. He guarded the fate of the human race, and the position of the human race's leader was passed on to Emperor Ku. No one knew if it was because of Gaoyang's selfishness or if she was trying to make it up to Xin Yuan. First, there was Gaoyang, who proved his Tao as the leader of the 5 emperors. Now that Gaoyang had abdicated, the new common lord of the human race, Emperor Ku, was also one of them. The descendant of the emperor, Gaoxin, was the great-grandson of the Yellow Emperor. Sima Qian's records of the grand historian. Gaoxin was born as a deity and spoke of his own name. Giving benefits does not apply to oneself. Be sensitive to the distance and be clear to the details. Obey the righteousness of heaven and know the urgency of the people. Be benevolent and mighty. Be virtuous and trustworthy. Cultivate oneself, and the world obeys. Take the wealth of the land and use it sparingly. Teach the people and teach them. Greet and send them off through the sun and the moon, and serve them with respect. His complexion is gloomy, and his virtue is bright. He moves at the right time, and his attire is like a scholar. The emperor's irrigation spreads throughout the world. Wherever the sun and the moon shine, wherever the wind and rain come, all are subdued. Of course, as the human sovereign, Gaoxin would naturally be taught by the human sovereign's teacher. After all, teaching the human sovereign would give him the merit of being the human sovereign's teacher, and he could also enjoy the human race's luck. It would only take a short 100 years to teach the human sovereign. For cultivators, 100 years was just the time of a nap. Their cultivation might not improve at all, but teaching the human sovereign would give them the merit of enlightenment. It would be as little as having many treasures and small improvements. It would be more like the great master Xiandu and the Shura sovereign, who directly broke through to the next level. This time, the one teaching Gaoxin was still someone from the Jie school, but the goddess of golden spirit had been replaced with the goddess of abundant treasures. 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. 3 sovereigns were in front, and the 5 emperors were behind. Just look at the 3 sovereigns. Every one of them proved their Tao, and their cultivation had reached the peak of sage to be, or even sage to be. And the leader of the 5 emperors, Gaoyang, was only at the late sage to be, which was a huge difference. Therefore, when Sanqing and the others divided the human sovereign's teacher, they had already agreed. 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. The 3 schools of Xianmen would each have 1 teacher. The teacher of the 5 emperors would have 1 teacher. The Jie school and the Chan school would have 2 teachers each. Unfortunately, the plan could not keep up with the changes. At the beginning, something went wrong. Fang Qingshan beat them to it and got the teacher of the heavenly sovereign, Fuxi, for the Shura sovereign. In this way, the great master of Xian, Du chose Shinnong, and Guang Chengzi assisted Xin Yuan. To compensate the Jie school, Laozi gave the human sovereign's teacher under his name to the Jie school. And because the Ren school and the Chan school assisted the three sovereigns, the Jie school, which assisted the 5 emperors, chose the first 3 emperors. Although there was one more human sovereign's teacher, it was more difficult for sect leader Tong Tian. After all, the Jie school had 4 inner disciples, abundant treasures, Wudong, Jinling, and Guiling. If there were only 2, it would be fine. Those who did not become the human sovereign's teacher and did not get the fated chance would at least have a companion. Now, there were 3 of them. Everyone else had obtained it, and only one person had not. What should they do if they didn't worry about the scarcity? Fortunately, it was different from the Chan school. The Chan school did not choose 3 out of 4. If they chose 1 out of 4, the other 3 were already complaining. As for the heavenly lord of primordial beginning choosing Guang Qingzi, he had already sowed the seeds of disaster in his heart. After all, the Jie school was the most united. Abundant treasures, Wudong, Jinling, and Guiling all gave way to each other. In the end, it was the Tong Tian who made the decision to let abundant treasures, Jinling, and Guiling become the human sovereign's teachers. As the eldest disciple of the Jie school, he naturally needed a higher cultivation. It was not the time to give way. The reason why he chose Jinling and Guiling instead of Wudong was that the Tong Tian had vaguely predicted that the 2 of them would have a life-and-death tribulation in the future. If it did not plan well, they might even be in danger of dying. Therefore, the Tong Tian was prepared to let them collect the human sovereign's merit to see if it could change their fate. As for Wudong, she was blessed. Moreover, the Tong Tian had other compensation, giving her a top-grade primordial spiritual treasure. However, it had to be said that the Tong Tian's cultivation was not bad. In the original trajectory, Jinling was on the list and became the Kan Palace Domu, the head of the constellation, commanding all the disciples of the heavenly court. The Guiling was even worse. Her soul was directly devoured by the mosquito Daoran. On the other hand, Wudong goddess, who had experienced the immortal slaying and 10,000 immortals, actually retreated from the great war of the gods. After assisting Gao Xan, Jinling goddess received the merit of the human sovereign's teacher. She was weaker than abundant treasures. Chapter 1220. It was normal for Dagoxin to be inferior to Digawayang in terms of human emperor merits. After all, Digawayang was the leader of the 5 emperors, and a leader was born with luck. Just like the emperor choosing a crown prince, he was either the first or the eldest. Moreover, during Digawayang's reign, there were great achievements such as Sangjia's creation of characters that would benefit the future generations. These were not things that Emperor Ku could compare to. As a human emperor, Dagoxin was not as good as Digawayang. As the teacher of the human emperor, it was reasonable that Jinling's merits were not as good as Duo Bao's. In addition, the goddess of golden spirit's original cultivation was not as good as Duo Bao's. Therefore, in the end, she only broke through to the late Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. She did not even reach the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal level. However, the goddess of golden spirit was already very happy about this. After all, the disciples of the 3 religions were stronger than before. But before assisting and teaching the human emperor, even the most powerful great master Xiandu was only a late Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. As for the Chan school and the Jie school's big brother Guang Chengzi and Duo Bao, they were only in the middle Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal level. Now, Jinling's cultivation was second only to the great master Xiandu and Duo Bao, and she was even better than Guang Chengzi. Naturally, this made her very satisfied. Moreover, she did not know that because of the human emperor merits, even her killing tribulation had been reduced a lot. In the future, as long as she was a little more careful, it was not impossible to avoid the killing tribulation of godly apotheosis. After Gao Xan became the human emperor, he only reached the peak of the middle sage-to-be stage. He was still one step away from the late sage-to-be stage. After he returned, he passed the throne to Ji. Yes, Gao Xian did not pass the throne to Yao, but to Ji. Everyone was selfish, regardless of whether they were ordinary people, sages, or deities. Although Emperor Ku was the Saint Emperor, he had not achieved the Tao and returned to the throne. Even if he succeeded, he could not avoid suspicion. Emperor Ku had been on the throne for 70 years and lived to 105 years. During this period, he naturally had many concubines and many descendants. For Gao Xian, his favorite was still the second concubine, Chong Yi. The second concubine, Chong Yi, had a son. Gao Xian loved the house and its crow, so he passed the throne to Ji. Unfortunately, the saint could control the throne of the human emperor. Although he was the human emperor, he could not give it to others privately. Moreover, if the human emperor became Ji, then what about the goddess of turtle spirit of Jieskul who assisted Yao? Therefore, in the last 9 years of his reign, whether it was because he was ambitious but not talented, or because he was forced by external forces, he had no choice but to pass the throne to Yao. As for Yao, he was also the son of Emperor Ku. His mother was Yao Muqingdu, and he was Ji's half-brother. Compared to Ji, Yao, who was born a Renhuang and had the assistance of the goddess of turtle spirit, seemed very extraordinary. First, he was born. His mother was pregnant for 14 months. With the help of the red dragon dream, his face was sharp on the top and plump on the bottom. His eyebrows were slender, and his hair was long. During Yao's reign, his achievements were extraordinary. Although he couldn't compare to the 3 sovereigns, he was even better than Gao Xian. Even the High Sun clan, if not for the fact that they were the head of the 5 emperors and coincidentally encountered Sangya's word creation, their achievements might not even be comparable to Yao's. Yao perfected the basic state system. Although he didn't establish a nation, he entered the era of slavery, but he ended the loose alliance of tribes. He also controlled the flood. Yes, although controlling the flood was Yu the Great's greatest achievement, the flood started from Yao the Great. It was just that he always treated the symptoms but not the root and didn't completely eradicate it. He revised the calendar according to the 24 solar terms set by Emperor Gaoyang. In addition, he recruited talents, invented wine, created the game of Go. In general, his benevolence was like heaven, and his knowledge was like a god. He was like the sun and looked like the clouds. He was rich but not arrogant, and noble but not comfortable. He was yellow and pure and rode a white horse. He was able to tame virtue, and he was related to the 9 clans. The 9 clans were harmonious, and the people were respected. The people were clear, and the countries were united. Giving up the throne, there was Yu Tao Tang. The Tao Tang clan referred to Yao, and the Yu clan referred to Shan. Emperor Yao had been on the throne for more than 70 years. Seeing that the end of his life was approaching, or rather, feeling that his achievements were complete, he began to look for the next successor to the human emperor. However, it was unknown whether it was because of the lessons learned from the mistakes of the past, but Emperor Yao was very cautious when choosing his successor. Therefore, someone suggested that the son of the common ruler, Danju, was reasonable and could take over the position of the human emperor. However, it was decisively rejected by him. He said that Danju was stupid, stubborn, and vicious, so it was not appropriate to use him. If these words were spoken in the feudal dynasty of the future, it would completely destroy the person's life. After all, Danju was Emperor Yao's most beloved son. In fact, this was also because his father passed the throne to Ji, not to him, which left a shadow. Another person suggested Gun. Of course, it was also rejected by him. This time, it was not for any other reason, but because when he was dealing with the flood, he consulted Siyu, and Siyu recommended Gun. Yao felt that Gun was unreliable, and he often disobeyed orders and endangered the interests of the clan. He was not suitable for this important job. However, Siyu insisted on letting Gun have a try, so Yao appointed Gun to deal with the flood. Sure enough, in the end, his vision was proved correct. Gun had been dealing with the flood for 9 years, but he had made no achievements. How could such a person be the human emperor? Even if he passed the throne, he would probably be replaced in the future. After that, people continued to recommend some people, but Yao felt that they were not very suitable. It was only when Guang Chengzi appeared again and recommended Shun that Yao thought about it for a while and then agreed. In ancient times, it was called the abdication system, but in fact, it was a small family world. During the period of the three sovereigns, Fuxi, Shinnong, Xianyuan, or Qiyu were not related to each other. At least, they were related by blood. However, the original tracks started from the Yellow Emperor Xianyuan and now from Di Gaoyang. The situation was completely different. After the Yellow Emperor Xianyuan, the head of the five sovereigns, Zhuanxiu, was the grandson of the Yellow Emperor. Ku, who ranked second, was the great-grandson of the Yellow Emperor. Yao was the son of Ku, and also from the Xianyuan bloodline. Shun also looked like a commoner, but when tracing back to his origin, he was also the sixth grandson of Zhuanxiu. It was just that since the fifth ancestor, Xiongchan, his family had declined. Good heavens, I didn't know it, but I was shocked when I saw it. Starting from the five sovereigns, the human tribe had actually entered the family world. However, because it was still the abdication system in name, and whether it was Di Gaoyang, Di Gaoxin, or Yao Xunyu, they were all very powerful. They were sacred emperors and sages, so no one cared about this. It was precisely because of this relationship, and although the relationship between the Chan school and Jie school was not good, they did not fall out with each other. Moreover, the three sovereigns and five sovereigns had long been planned by the sages. Therefore, when Guang Chengzi recommended him, Yao agreed to consider it. After this observation, he found that this young man was really good. In ancient times, before and even after the imperial examinations, the selection of talents and abilities paid great attention to a person's character. It was believed that a person with good character would be strong. Although this was a paradox, at least at that time, character played a decisive role. Chapter 12:21. Filial piety was the most important of all virtues, and vice was the most important. Filial piety was ranked first among all the qualities. If a person understood filial piety, then no matter how bad he was, he wouldn't be too bad. If he didn't understand filial piety, then even if he was extremely talented, it would be difficult for him to be recognized by the public. Shun was famous for being a filial son. Compared to Xiang Jiuling, he was definitely better than Xiang Jiuling. The first filial piety in the 24 filial piety was the story of Shun. His father, blind old man, was a blind man with evil intentions. His stepmother was two-faced. His younger brother was arrogant and unruly. They colluded to kill Shun. However, Shun did not forget about filial piety because of this. Mencius once imagined that if the blind old man was arrested for murder, although Shun would not use his power to break the criminal law and pardon him, he would definitely secretly carry his father out from the prison and escape to the seaside together. They would live a carefree life, and in order to enjoy the happiness of a family, he would forget about his status as the emperor. Therefore, this was a plus. Of course, if one listened to both sides, one would be enlightened. Although everyone said that Shun was good, Yao felt that it was better to see it with his own eyes. First, he sent someone to Shun's tribe to inquire about it. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as what Guang Qingzi had sold. At this point, although Yao felt a little relieved, he still did not make up his mind. This was also a cruel person, or it could be said that he had already seen some clues and felt that Shun was a rare commodity. Therefore, in order to test Shun, he directly married his two daughters to Shun in order to test his character and ability. This was the legendary story of Empress Yi and her daughters serving one husband together. It was a beautiful story. After getting Empress Yi and her daughters married, Shun not only made the two daughters live in harmony with the whole family, but also showed their talents and noble personality in all aspects. Therefore, after several tests, Yao finally felt relieved and passed the position of the human sovereign to him. During Yao's reign, he had made great contributions, at least a little better than his father, Emperor Ku. Unfortunately, the five emperors were still not as good as the three sovereigns. Therefore, although he received more merits than Emperor Ku, he still only improved his cultivation to the peak of the middle stage of sage to be. He was still one step away from the late stage. The goddess of turtle spirit was the same as the goddess of golden spirit. After obtaining merit, although her cultivation had greatly improved and reached the late stage of zenith heaven golden immortal, the tribulation in her fate was only slightly reduced, but it was still red. After all, Golden Spirit Saint's fate was just to be on the list. Although she lost her freedom, she could return as long as her fate was fulfilled. But Golden Spirit Saintess died and didn't even have the chance to reincarnate. Therefore, the calamities the two of them faced could not be compared to each other. Even though Gu Ling had the natural reward power of the human emperor, it wouldn't be able to counteract her natural disaster too much. In this regard, Tong Tian was also very helpless. He could only secretly make up his mind to pay more attention in the future. In this, Shun became one. This time, no one knew whether it was because Guang Chengzi had learned from Xuanyuan's failure, or because Shun's tribulation to become the human emperor was not big, but he successfully completed the task of being the teacher of the human emperor, and Shun also successfully became the human emperor. Unfortunately, even though he was also one of the Renhuangs and one of the 5 emperors, he was still slightly inferior to Emperor Ku, let alone the 3 emperors. It was not that Shun was not capable, but his light was overshadowed by one person. This person was none other than Yu the Great. During Shun's reign, the only thing he left for his descendants was filial piety. Yu the Great replaced his other merits. He tried his best to control the flood. He dug the mountains, cleared the swamps, and dredged the rivers. Finally, the flood was subdued and people lived in peace. However, at that time, there was a saying in the world, within the 4 seas, Yu the Great's merits, Yu the Great's virtues all started from Yu the Great. Although there was an unprecedented peace, most of the credit went to Yu the Great. Although Yu the Great was his subject, and logically speaking, he also had a share in the merit book, this kind of subject had already surpassed his masters. This was different from Sangjia's creation during Di Gaoyang's reign. When one's merits overshadowed his master, it was easy to cause the superiors to put away the bow and cook the dog when the rabbit was dead. Guang Chengzi and Shun were no exception, especially when this was not only about their reputation, but also about their interests. After all, if the public's opinions were false, the merit and luck that fell on Guang Chengzi and Shun would be reduced. Therefore, when the two of them discovered the clues, they wanted to suppress them. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. They did not know that there was someone behind Yu the Great. When Guang Chengzi saw Shura's sovereign, he was in a bad mood. If he did not know that he could not defeat Shura's sovereign, and that his backer was not as strong as Shura's sovereign, Guang Chengzi would have killed Shura's sovereign immediately. When Xianyuan and Qiyu fought for the position of human sovereign, he and Shura's sovereign were teachers of human sovereign. He was defeated, but Shura's sovereign took advantage of the situation to rise. Not only did he obtain human sovereign merits, but he also seized the opportunity to seize the last 10 opportunities on the heavenly road. Now, he became Shun's teacher. He did not expect that Shura's sovereign would also become Yu the Great's teacher. Most importantly, Yu the Great had also seized Shun's karmic luck and merits. Indirectly, the Shura sovereign had seized his own karmic luck and merits. How could he be willing to do this? He was wondering why Yu the Great had such great merits and dared to do so. It turned out that Shura's sovereign was behind it. Unfortunately, so what if he knew? The situation was stronger than him. He could only swallow his pride. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only endure it. In fact, what Guang Chengzi did not know was that Shura's sovereign was not Yu the Great's teacher at all. He was just a senior brother. The real teacher of human sovereign was Fong Qingshan. If he knew this, he probably would not even dare to complain. In the end, Guang Chengzi could only obtain a meager amount of human sovereign merits. Then, he returned to the Jade Mirage Palace angrily. The world entered the era of Yu the Great. After experiencing the governance of the other 3 sovereigns and 4 emperors, the human race showed signs of prosperity. In addition, with Fong Qingshan's guidance and Shura's sovereign's guidance, Yu the Great's talent was extraordinary. Under his governance, the human race really entered a prosperous era. During Yu the Great's reign, there were 2 greatest achievements. One was Yu the Great's flood control. Actually, It was more like a demon disaster than a flood. This was because the floods in these places were not natural disasters, but man-made disasters. They were all caused by some big demons. If they did not get rid of them completely, controlling the floods was just treating the symptoms but not the root cause. The cultivation of these demons was not weak. In addition, they had the geographical advantage. Therefore, it was very difficult to deal with them. Starting from Yao, although the clan of Enlightenment and the clan of Jie took action, they did not completely cure the problem. After all, the most powerful great master Xiandu of the three religions was only in the early stage of Sage to Be. Although there were no middle or late stage Sage to Be in the demon race, there was no lack of Sage to Be in the early stage. Even if abundant treasures and Guang Chengzi had the sect master's treasure, as long as they did not trap the demon race, it was easy for them to escape. Chapter 12:22. Although the liches and demons were defeated, the sages ruled the world. The three religions of Xianmen were awe-inspiring, but to be honest, their core strength was not enough. They completely relied on the sages. Except for Master Xiandu, they did not even have a sage to be. The most powerful ones, Dipankara and Duobao, were only at the peak of the zenith heaven. Therefore, during Yao Shun's time, neither the Chan school nor the Jie school had solved the flood problem. It was not that they did not want to, but they did not have the strength to do so. After all, the disciples of the three religions had not grown up yet. It was fine if their quality was not good, but there were not enough of them. Many of the 12 golden immortals of the Chan school were only at the primordial unity realm. Except for the 4 heirs of the Jie school and Yun Shao, most of them were at the primordial unity realm. But when it came to Yu the Great, the situation was completely different. After all, Yu the Great was backed by the Sea of Blood. The Sea of Blood's reputation alone was enough to deter thieves and rascals, not to mention other things. After all, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Daoren were ruthless figures who made Daozu suffer in Hongjun, and even Hongjun Tiandao. Of course, except for Mosquito Daoren, who was a patriarch above the sages, the Sea of Blood's rapid development did not seem to be any weaker than the human race, even though they were born later than the human race. The Shura Emperor, the leader of the imperial family, did not dare to say that he was the first person below the sages, but he stood at the peak of the pyramid. In the whole of Desolation, there was no one below the sages who dared to say that they could beat him. Most importantly, unlike the Chan school and the Jie school, the Sea of Blood's core strength was not bad either. Although the Azura clan could not compare to the Shaman Demon clan, the Dragon clan, and the Phoenix clan at their peak, it was enough to shock people. The Azura clan could at least be ranked in the top 100, top 50, or even top 20 among the 10,000 clans of Untainted Land. After all, apart from Mosquito Daoren and the Shura Sovereign, the Shura clan had 4 Sage-to-Be experts. Although they were only at the early stage, they were definitely not weaker than the great Master Xiandu after all. Thanks to Mosquito Dorn's good fortune, the first generation of the Azura tribe had a natal treasure that could evolve. The Azura Sovereign had the bloodthirsty Jade Seal, and so on. However, as long as one's cultivation reached the Sage-to-Be level, these natal spiritual treasures would at least reach the upper grade, or even the peak grade. There were a total of 36 Grand Immortals, 81 Primordial Unity Golden Immortals, and hundreds of Golden Immortals. With such strength, there was no need for Fang Qingshan and the Shura Sovereign to take action. With the other Shura experts taking action, the Demon Clan was beaten back to its original state. This was also the first time the entire Untainted Land had seen the power of the Shura clan. The reason why the Sea of Blood had improved so quickly, almost catching up to the main character of this cultivation calamity, the human tribe, was naturally because the Sea of Blood had great luck and unparalleled resources. In addition, they were blessed by the karmic karma of the underworld, so their cultivation was smooth sailing. It would be strange if they did not have such achievements. With the help of the Sea of Blood and the innate talent and luck of Yu the Great, his cultivation was not inferior to that of Qi Yu in the past. He also had the treasures that Fang Qingshan gave him, the mountain-splitting axe that could split mountains, and the sea-steadying divine needle that could measure water level. Controlling the flood was just a matter of time. Compared to the original track, because it was Fang Qingshan who took action and Yu the Great was his disciple, ordinary spiritual treasures could not be used. Therefore, these two treasures could not be mentioned in the same breath. They were both top-notch primordial spiritual treasures. With Yu the Great's success in controlling the flood, these two spiritual treasures became top-notch primordial karma spiritual treasures. They were not inferior to the Shura sovereign's halberd of sin and the demon castle. This was controlling the flood. Yu the Great's other contribution was to refine the 9 cauldrons and establish the 9 states. From then on, any non-human who entered the territory of the human tribe would have their cultivation suppressed. The stronger the karma, the stronger the suppression. Of course, other than that, as the future human emperor would definitely not be comparable to the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. As long as he was on the throne, he would not only have the protection of the Emperor Great Myrtle Chi, but he could also mobilize the power of the 9 cauldrons to suppress powerful enemies. Although the 9 cauldrons were not refined by Fang Qingshan, they were refined by Yu the Great with the power of humanity. As the saying went, heaven and earth had the same power. They were also top-notch primordial spiritual treasures. Together, they were comparable to primordial supreme treasures. There were also the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon inside. Coupled with the power of humanity, they were invincible under the sage. Even if Xinyuanzi and the others came, they could only return in defeat. Even if a sage attacked, as long as the current human emperor was not too muddle-headed, he might be able to resist. As for the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon, it was a deal. Yu the Great wanted to borrow the power of the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon, and the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon also wanted to borrow the fate of humanity to cultivate. It was a matter that hit it off. Of course, more importantly, it was for the sake of the lineage of the Sea of Blood. Otherwise, Yu the Great would not have been able to persuade them so easily. After all, although the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon were not comparable to the Dragon Mother, the First Dragon, and the Torch Dragon, they were existences second only to the Dragon Ancestor. They all had the cultivation of Sage-to-Be, comparable to the 10 demon marshals of the demon race. Not to mention these, refining the 9 cauldrons could not only stabilize the fate of the human race, but also protect the human race. This was naturally a good thing for the human race, and it could not be better. This was because it would help the human race become completely independent and break away from the control of the sages. However, it was not good for the sages. Therefore, once the sages found out, they would definitely not allow such a thing to happen. Fortunately, now that the sages were racing against time to prepare for the arena battle, they were busy comprehending the Hongjun Tiandao, and with the power of humanity and the lineage of the Sea of Blood covering the heavenly secrets, by the time the sages found out, it was already too late. Although the sages were not happy, they could not do anything. Fortunately, as long as the human race did not produce saints or origin immortals, when they had time, it would be very easy to deal with. Yu the Great conquered the flood and completely solved the flood and demon problems that had lasted for 3 generations of Renhuangs, starting from Yao. More importantly, the 9 cauldrons gave the human race hope to break away from the sages. The credit was so great that it surpassed that of the 3 sovereigns. Therefore, Yu the Great returned to the throne and proved his way to the Renhuang Plain. The credit he obtained was so great that it was even greater than that of Fuxi, Shenong, and the others. Boom! The heaven and earth shook violently, and a thick golden light of merit fell from the 9 heavens. The golden light was extremely dazzling, illuminating the 9 heavens and 10 earths. This was a reward for Yu the Great from humanity. When the others saw this, they were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. They could not wait to rush up and take their place to receive the merit. Boom! As the human emperor's merit was added to his body, a merit that was not inferior to the human emperor's merit rose from Yu the Great's body. That was his heaven-supporting merit. For a moment, Yu the Great's body shone with golden light and emitted endless light. His aura reached its peak, and at this moment, his cultivation directly reached the peak of the quasi-sage realm. The secondary sage. However, at the secondary sage realm, Yu the Great's cultivation also stopped. Once he reached the bottleneck, he would not be able to enter the primordial chaos realm even if he had endless merit. This made Yu the Great helpless, and he could only sigh. Chapter 12:23. After Yu the Great, 2 more merits fell. One fell on the Shura sovereign. Although he was not the teacher of a human sovereign, he had taught the human sovereign in name only. The other fell on the Blood Sea, but was rebounded and landed on the head of the Shura sovereign. However, like Yu the Great, although the Shura sovereign also received merits, he was still stuck at the lesser sage level and did not break through to the origin chaos level. Even so, seeing this scene, everyone could not help but feel envious, jealous, and hateful. They were even more envious than Yu the Great, especially Guang Chengzi. After all, he was also the teacher of 2 human sovereigns. However, the merits he received were only enough to exhaust the negative karma of the Battle of Zhuolu. His cultivation did not improve at all. It was all for naught. He had worked hard for nothing and even lost his energy and face. As for the Shura sovereign, he had successively assisted Heavenly Emperor Fuxi, human sovereign Qiyu, and one of the 5 emperors, Yu the Great. The richness of his merits was almost comparable to Di Sun and Shun's merits. He was not the human sovereign, but was better than the human sovereign. Back then, the Shura sovereign's cultivation was only at the peak of the zenith heaven. Although he was more powerful than Guang Chengzi, there was a limit. However, after the period of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, he was already standing at the peak of the pyramid and ready to break through to the origin chaos level, while Guang Chengzi was still at the same place. How could Guang Chengzi not hate him? Different people had different fates. At the same time, with the return of Yu the Great and the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the human race completely became the main characters of the world. For a moment, heaven and earth shook, and there was a loud rumble. Previously, during the Battle of Zhuolu, the scene of the 12 Yuanshan summoning the human Tao, fate, appeared again. However, compared to the last time, the fate that appeared this time had a qualitative breakthrough. First, the heavenly lake of providence was wider, and the fate inside had completely transformed into a purple-gold color. As for the spirit of providence, the Providence True Dragon's 9th claw had completely grown, becoming the first 9-clawed golden dragon in the world after the ancestral dragon. For a moment, the entire sky above the human race bloomed with boundless light, illuminating the land of the 9 prefectures. For a moment, the human Tao, human race experts, and supreme treasures appeared. The 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, 3 ancestors, word ancestor, sages of the humans, sages, sage whip, Kong Tong seal, Shen Nong cauldron, Qiyu sword, 9 cauldrons of Yu the Great, and so on appeared one. They formed clouds of light that were vast and boundless, and they emanated an extremely profound aura. While everyone was still shocked by the human Tao fortune, heaven and earth shook again. Above the 9 heavens, a series of thunderbolts suddenly rang out in the void without warning. The thunderbolts were as dense as rain. His appearance was extremely abrupt. At a glance, the void seemed to have turned into a sea of lightning. Within the sea of lightning, a golden eye appeared out of thin air. Within this golden eye, one seemed to be able to see countless mysterious divine chains of laws constantly flashing, flickering and flickering. It exuded boundless majesty. Beneath the 9 underworlds, a boundless sea of blood spread out. There was the yellow springs of the netherworld, the blooming of Permitha, flowers, the 18 levels of hell. There was even a wheel that slowly rose up. Through it, one could see the myriad of living beings reincarnating within it. The manifestation of fate was still the manifestation of fate. However, this time it was not the human Tao fortune that manifested, but the Hongjun Tiandao's Earth Tao fortune. The human race became the main character of the world, and the human Tao fortune flourished. The 3 paths of heaven, earth, and human were finally established. Although they had yet to reach an extreme balance, with Hongjun Tiandao being the strongest, followed by the Earth Dao, and the human Dao being the weakest, they were still barely maintained. At that moment, everyone could sense that the restrictive power of the heavens and earth had increased tremendously, be it breaking through space, borrowing the power of the heavens and earth, or even using gravity. All of them had increased tremendously. Everyone felt as if they had been shackled down at all times, unable to move freely. In fact, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that if someone were to comprehend Hongjun Tiandao at this moment, they would realize that the Taoist rhyme of the Great Path had become even more obscure. In other words, if one wanted to comprehend the Tao, cultivate and break through, the difficulty had increased by several times compared to before. This was also why it was harder for experts to appear in the later stages. The cultivation levels seemed to be getting lower and lower. It was not only because of the lack of spiritual qi, but also because of the obscure Taoist rhyme. Oh, what a pity! Fang Qingshan, of course, immediately comprehended the changes in the world of desolation. He was not the only one. Anyone who had broken through to the origin chaos, saints sensed it immediately. However, they did not care. They were saints because although Hongjun Tiandao was obscure, it had nothing to do with them. Their primordial spirits were placed in Hongjun Tiandao, which was no different from before. As for Fang Qingshan, it was purely because at his cultivation level, even if the world did not change, he would not be able to gain much from it. Even a little benefit would take tens of thousands of years. Moreover, he was someone who was going to leave the world of desolation. He sighed now, not because of the changes in the world, nor for himself, but for you the Great, who was the black tortoise of the past. He was born at the wrong time. Back in the Purple Cloud Palace, Nuwa still felt sorry for Dongwang Tai. She felt that he was born at the wrong time. If he did not die, and if the opportunity on the heavenly road had come earlier, he would definitely have had a place in the final opportunity. Now, Fang Qingshan also felt the same way. If the black tortoise had returned earlier, like Qiyu, or if the opportunity on the heavenly road had ended later, he would definitely have had a place in the final opportunity. After all, he was in the origin chaos realm. Although he had not recultivated, his starting point was already higher than others. Moreover, he had two cardinal treasures in his hands. The 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram had unparalleled defense. The 9 cauldrons of you the Great had unparalleled attack. However, this regret was only a small one. Although he could not participate in the arena battle, it did not mean that his path to the origin chaos was severed. There were 2 key opportunities to participate in the arena battle. One was to obtain the infinite void and the secret technique of breaking through to the origin chaos from the divine poison marquis and the others. The second was to obtain the reward of the great Tao, the light from providence, and the merit after victory. As for the first point, even if you the Great did not participate, as long as Fang Qingshan, Mosquito Daorin, Yang Mei, or the World Tree Avatar, or even the Shura Sovereign, Fuxi, or even Qiyu obtained it, he could also obtain it. As for the second point, he did not lack the light from providence at all. This was because, in addition to being the human emperor of the human race, he also had the light from providence that supported the heavens. He might not be able to take out a lot at once, but he was better than others in the long run. In fact, if you the Great wanted to fight for this opportunity now, it was still not too late. That was to challenge the 10 people who had already qualified. With the help of Fang Qingshan, their chances of winning could be increased, so Hongjun would not care. Even if the others had thoughts in their hearts, they could only hold it in. However, there was no need for that. As mentioned earlier, the secret technique could be obtained through the sect, and there was no lack of light from providence and merit. Moreover, participating in the battle might not necessarily result in victory. If one was unlucky and happened to meet an expert, one's own light from providence would be destroyed, not to mention obtaining light from providence. This was not just a simple and relatively fair arena battle, but also a process of seizing light from others. Chapter 1224. When You the Great returned, it was almost time for the arena battle with the poison god Marquis and the others. Before that, there was one more thing that needed to be done. It was about the candidates for the battle. There was nothing much to say about those below the primordial chaos realm. The Heaven Road had already selected 10 people, including Shura Emperor, Xinyuanzi, Haoyan, Jiu Qian, Lady Mother of the Chariot, Black Yellow Ancestor, Torch Dragon, Chiyu, Fushi, and Chaos. There was no objection to the candidates for the mid-stage primordial chaos realm. Fang Qing-shan, Yang Mei, and Hong Jun were the only ones who had not been decided. Only the early-stage primordial chaos realm had not been decided. Originally, only Sanqing, Jane, Zhuanti, and Yuhua were suitable. However, because of Fang Qingshan's interference, Hutu, Ro, and Mosquito Dowrin had entered the early-stage primordial chaos realm. The situation had become somewhat different. Clang, clang, clang. Not long after You the Great returned, a crisp bell chime suddenly sounded in the entire desolation without warning. The bell chime was very clear and resounded in everyone's mind. It's almost time. The arena battle between the two realms is about to begin. Everyone who was immersed in the Tao was awakened. They were stunned at first, and then a message appeared in their minds. They immediately knew that the arena battle between the two realms was about to begin. Now, they needed to determine the candidates for the early-stage primordial chaos realm. Sanqing, Jane, Zhuanti, Nuwa, Mosquito Dowrin, Hutu, Ro, and the World Tree Avatar left their lair and came to the Purple Cloud Palace. Huh, who is this? When did another primordial chaos expert appear in the desolation? It seems to be related to Blood Sea. Fortunately, he's only at the early stage primordial chaos realm. Fortunately, everyone was gathered in the hall, and when they saw the World Tree clone beside Fang Qingshan, they were all stunned and shocked. Not only them, but also Hong Jun was astonished. As for Hutu, Yang Mei knew it before he came. This is? Looking at the World Tree clone, Zhuanti was the first to ask. This was because he sensed a similar aura from the World Tree clone. I am Huan Yu, and I am the manifestation of the World Tree. The World Tree clone smiled faintly. I heard from Taoist Fang Qingshan about the arena battle, so I've come to lend my meager strength. Everyone agreed with the World Tree clone's words. Fortunately, he was only at the early stage primordial chaos. His cultivation level was only at the first stage primordial chaos, which made everyone feel slightly relieved. There are only 6 people participating in the arena battle. Now, there are 10 people, including Hutu, Ro, Mosquito Dowrin, Sanqing, Jane, Zhuanti, Nuwa, and Huan Yu. I will designate 6 people first. If anyone else is dissatisfied, you can challenge them. The winner will replace the loser. Hong Jun's gaze shifted between Fang Qingshan and the World Tree clone. He did not say anything else and announced. He did not say anything and simply announced. Mosquito Dowrin, Hutu, Ro, Sanqing. After a pause, Hong Jun asked, Jane, Zhuanti, Nuwa, Huan Yu, do the 4 of you have any objections? If so, who do you want to challenge? I have no objections. After a moment of silence, Zhuanti was the first to speak. In terms of cultivation level, he was the weakest among the saints. In terms of numinous treasures, he was inferior to Nuwa. Therefore, rather than go up and embarrass himself, it was better to give up now. Hong Jun nodded in understanding and looked at Jane, Nuwa, and especially the World Tree clone. Nuwa struggled for a while, closed her eyes, and sighed. I'll give up too. Only Jane and the World Tree clone were left. The 2 of them looked at each other and spoke at the same time. I want a challenge. Everyone was not too surprised by Jane's decision. Instead, the World Tree clone, except for Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin, was very surprised. After all, his cultivation level was only at the first stage primordial chaos. All right, who are you going to challenge? Although he was surprised, Hong Jun did not show it on his face and only asked lightly. I challenge primordial chaos. Upon hearing Hongjuan's question, the World Tree clone and Jane spoke at the same time again. Although this was somewhat unexpected, it was still within reason. After all, compared to Hutu, Mosquito Dowrin, and Ro, Sanshine was suspected to be a pushover. Laozi was the most mysterious among the Sanshine, and he had two treasures in his hands. His immortal slaying sword formation could not be broken unless it was one of the four saints. In comparison, although the primordial Lord of Heaven had the Pangu banner, it was the easiest barrier to break. Therefore, it was reasonable for Jean and the World Tree to choose him at the same time. However, the primordial Lord of Heaven was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was originally the most prideful person, but now he was being challenged in public and treated like a pushover, especially by the World Tree clone. A mere first-stage primordial chaos cultivator dared to overestimate himself. Fine. Let me teach you guys a lesson. Not just anyone can challenge me. A cold glint flashed in the primordial Lord of Heaven's eyes. He decided in his heart that he would teach the World Tree's avatar a huge lesson later. Which one of you will go first? Hongjun looked at Jean and the World Tree clone and asked, "You'll go first." Before the two of them could speak, the primordial Lord of Heaven pointed at the World Tree clone and said, "All right." Neither of them had any objections to this. Make your move. Otherwise, don't say that I didn't give you a chance when you lose. In the chaos, the two of them confronted each other for a while before the primordial Lord of Heaven spoke. Is that so? I hope the Taoist doesn't regret it. The World Tree clone smiled faintly and did not decline. Be careful, Taoist. After reminding him, the World Tree clone made the first move. As soon as he said that, the World Tree clone stretched out its right hand, and a huge handprint directly slapped at the primordial Lord of Heaven. The huge handprint covered the sky. In a trance, this was not a handprint, but a world, and it was not an ordinary world. It was not a minor kiliacosm, nor was it a major kiliacosm, but a world of desolation. The major kiliacosm, mountains and rivers strange and dazzling, the sun, moon, stars, flowers, trees, birds, beasts, mountains, and veins. The shadows of all things appeared one by one. It was vast, majestic, and unstoppable. World Supreme Seal. As the palm landed, the universe seemed to have turned into Buddha, and the primordial Lord of Heaven became Monkey. Sunday Mosquito Dowrin had the dove of a mosquito sting, and Fong Qingshan had the 5 elements bracelet. The World Tree clone naturally had its own natural mystical ability. This World Supreme Seal was one of them. As soon as the seal landed, a world of desolation smashed down with unparalleled power. It did not seem to be using a supreme treasure, but it was not inferior to using a connate cardinal treasure. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Obviously, they had underestimated the World Tree clone. This was especially so when facing the primordial Lord of Heaven, who had the World Supreme Seal. However, although the power of the mystical ability was unparalleled, it was obviously wishful thinking to think that it could make him retreat with just one mystical ability. Kill! The primordial Lord of Heaven shouted softly, and an extremely powerful and violent aura erupted from his body, sweeping across the entire place. He took out the Pangu banner and waved it heavily. Even a 4th stage or 5th stage primordial chaos expert might not be able to win against him, let alone an early stage primordial chaos expert. Heaven's will is like a knife. Every knife makes one grow old. Huan Yu let out a light shout. 3,000 great Daos instantly gathered above his head to form a supreme heavenly blade. It was over 10,000 zhong long, pitch black like ink, like an agate, flickering with glazed light. An incomparably sharp aura spread out, filled with an indestructible will. Just one look at it would cause one's heart to tremble, as if their soul was about to be sucked out of their body. Blade of Destiny. In the past, Niwa and Hongjun had used it. However, Niwa had borrowed the power of Hongjun Tiandao, so it was not worth mentioning. Although Huan Yu could not compare to Hongjun's Blade of Destiny, he also had his own characteristics, which were enough to amaze people. When the saber fell, it stunned time and space. Using time to control the 3,000 great Daos, heaven's was like a knife, and every knife made one grow old. One slash could cut away one's life essence and obliterate one's young lifespan forever and irreparably. As for how much lifespan each slash could cut, it depended on the person. If the person's cultivation level was not at the primordial chaos realm, one slash was enough to kill him. Even if the person's cultivation level was above the primordial chaos realm, if the early stage primordial chaos realm was seriously injured by one slash, the mid-stage primordial chaos realm could only retreat without special means. The most important thing was that this saber was invisible, so it was difficult to defend against ordinary attacks. Primordial Lord of Heaven shook the Pangu banner and constantly shot out the primordial chaos sword Qi, but it had little effect. At the sight of this, apart from Fang Qingshan, Yang Mei, Hongjun, and Mosquito Daoran, the others, including Ro and Hutu, could not help but look solemn. If they put themselves in the position of Primordial Lord of Heaven, would they have a way to deal with it? However, everyone looked pale, especially Juani and Yuhua, especially Juani. This slash was enough to seriously injure him. As for Yuhua, her golden wheel of merit was a good thing. 10,000 golden lamps. As Primordial Lord of Heaven shouted, a golden cloud of tens of thousands of acres in size rose from the top of his head. There were 10,000 golden flowers and 10,000 golden lamps outside, and the fire dripped down to form a necklace to protect his body. It was like the dripping water in front of the eaves. Inside it, there was the primordial world looming, illuminated by the sun, moon, and stars. The auspicious cloud golden lamp was worthy of being the primeval lord of heaven's natal divine ability. It was specialized in defense, and even the Panga banner couldn't do anything to the blade of heaven's will. When it landed on the lamp, it was as if it had sunk into a swamp and was firmly blocked outside. However, the primordial Lord of Heaven did not have it easy. Although the divine edge blade did not strike his body, the thousands of golden lamps in the auspicious clouds were extinguishing at any moment. Once all the golden lamps were extinguished, it would be the moment of his defeat. Well, Primordial Lord of Heaven has lost this battle. At this moment, a voice rang out. Following that, a golden bridge descended and stopped the blade of destiny. A pagoda flew out and hung above Primordial Lord of Heaven's head, resisting the attack of the blade of destiny together with the 10,000 golden lamps. The one who attacked was naturally lousy. He knew Primordial Lord of Heaven very well. He would not admit defeat until he was at the end of his rope. However, there was no need for that. Once the 10,000 golden lamps were really broken, the backlash of the magic being broken would be enough to make him suffer. Huan Yu was not angry that his father had intervened. He looked at the primeval Lord of Heaven, who looked indignant and gloomy, but had no intention of continuing to attack. Huan Yu smiled faintly and withdrew his magic with a wave of his hand. Well, Taoist Huan Yu wins this time. Hongjun announced the result as both sides stopped and there were no objections. Then, he turned his head to look at Jia-in and asked, "Do you still want to challenge him?" Hearing this, Jia-in smiled bitterly. Challenge? He did not even have much confidence in challenging Primordial Lord of Heaven, and the Primordial Lord of Heaven did not even have the power to fight back against Huan Yu. How could he challenge him? Was he going to lose his life and make a fool of himself? Jia-in shook his head. As for Laozi, Tongtian, Hutu, Mosquito Daoran, and Ro, Jia-in had no chance of winning. Forget it, Daozu, I give up. Although he felt regretful, Jia-in had expected this scene. Just like what he had said to Juani, it was his luck to win, but it was his fate to lose. He could not force it. Moreover, even if he participated in the battle, he might not have the confidence to win. If he failed, it would be a fatal blow to the entire West. Therefore, he shook his head and gave up. Good. Hongjun nodded, looked around, and said, "In that case, the quota has been decided. I, Yang Mei, and Fang Qingshan will fight the middle stage primordial chaos. Hutu, Ro, Mosquito Daoran, Taoist Huanyu, Laozi, and Tongtian will fight the early-stage primordial chaos. Shura Sovereign and the others will fight the early-stage primordial chaos. Chapter 1226. The final selection of the participants was somewhat unexpected. Everyone knew that with the addition of Yang Mei and the Sea of Blood lineage, there would be a change in the candidates. However, this change should only be Jiayin. Zhuanti and Nuwa had even expected that, given the mystery of Jiayin, there might be a glimmer of hope to replace Sanqing. However, they had not expected that someone would appear out of nowhere and actually replace Heavenly Lord Yuanshi. Moreover, it was so easy that Jiayin had directly forfeited. Everyone was very surprised by the mysterious Taoist Huanyu. They were surprised that no one in the entire desolation knew of his existence before this. It seemed that he had appeared suddenly and was even more mysterious than Jiuqian, Black Yellow, and the others who had emerged from the opportunity on the Heavenly Road. Most importantly, he actually had the cultivation level of the primordial chaos. It seemed that since Fang Qingshan had attained the Tao, he seemed to have broken some taboo. The primordial chaos in the desolation had begun to appear in an endless stream. First, it had been Mosquito Dowrin, then the sky-supporting Black Tortoise, and now Taoist Huanyu. Although everyone knew from his mouth that he was the manifestation of the creation wood, it seemed to be specious under deduction. Furthermore, they were surprised by his cultivation level. It was not because of his cultivation level of the primordial chaos, but because his cultivation level of the primordial chaos was too deceptive. It seemed that he had just broken through to the primordial chaos and was inferior to Zhuanti. However, judging from the way he fought against the primordial Lord of Heaven, he seemed to be able to easily defeat the primordial Lord of Heaven without even using his ultimate treasure. As for whether Taoist Huanyu had a cardinal treasure or not, no one doubted this at all. Apart from other things, his true body, the creation wood, was definitely an existence that was not weaker than a connate cardinal treasure, just like Yang Mei's true body, the hollow willow. He was already so powerful without using his cardinal treasure. If he used his cardinal treasure and went all out, even Lady Earth and Ro would not dare to say that they could defeat him, let alone Laozi, Tongtian, Hutu, and Ro. However, it was too late to say anything now. Moreover, the urgent task was to deal with the arena battle. Everything else had to be put aside. Without Hong Jun taking the lead, no one dared to touch Taoist Huanyu's whiskers. After all, putting aside Taoist Master Huanyu's cultivation and strength, just the fact that he was on good terms with Blood Sea was enough to deter anyone from acting recklessly. Clang, clang, clang. At some point, the sound of a bell resounded throughout the entire Pan-Gu Chaos world. In the boundless starry sky, the lifeless Devil Palace's Poison God Marquis and the Pan-Gu Chaos World's two-world arena battle has officially begun. All participants who need to participate in the arena battle, please get ready. There are 3 rounds in this competition. They are a 10-person battle below the Chaos Realm, a 6-person battle at the early stage Primordial Chaos Realm, and a 3-person battle at the mid-stage Primordial Chaos Realm. In order to ensure fairness, all participants' cultivation levels are limited to the same realm. The winner becomes the king, and the loser becomes the thief. Based on the principle of fairness, the winner can obtain all kinds of rare treasures, heaven and earth treasures, divine skills, divine abilities, dharma treasures, elixir pills, and spirit fruits from the loser. Let alone the primordial chaos realm, there will be no shortage of immortal mystic techniques. When the sun rose in the east, a vast and majestic voice instantly resounded throughout the entire Pan-Gu Chaos world. It reverberated like the echoes of a valley and was filled with an inexplicable charm. As the voice fell, the entire chaos, the entire untainted land, was in a state of solemnity and silence. Then there was an uproar. After all, many people did not know about this event at all. Two-world arena battle? What exactly is going on? Why didn't I know about it? Yes. What's going on with the lifeless Devil Palace and the Poison God Marquis? a mystic technique to break through to the primordial chaos realm, or even the immortal mystic technique. This seems to have something to do with the opportunity on the heavenly road a few days ago. At this moment, desolation and all living beings in the chaos realm had too many doubts. There were many different opinions, but no one could explain it to them. Before they could come back to their senses, they were once again shocked. Rumble. As the magnificent voice fell, an unparalleled pressure swept through the entire chaos realm. This feeling seemed to be even more vast than the time when Hongjun Tiandao was born and Hongjun became a sage. As soon as it appeared, it directly suppressed the entire desolation. The chaos realm, the top and bottom, and all four directions from ancient times until now seemed to be suppressed and imprisoned at this moment, unable to move. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, even the primordial chaos saint felt like he was carrying Mount Bujo on his back, and it was difficult for him to even move. Following that, everyone saw a huge arena crash into the chaos space. The entire chaos space rumbled and trembled nonstop because of it. The entire arena emitted endless divine light, and there were countless mysterious patterns intertwining and changing on its surface. It was called an arena, but in fact, it was more like a coliseum. There seemed to be an independent world inside, a world no weaker than desolation. At the edge of the arena, there were countless seats floating in the air. These seats were arranged on two sides, with one side having more seats and the other having fewer seats. The side with more seats was constantly decreasing in a pyramid shape. At the bottom, the first level had the most seats, no less than hundreds of thousands of them, like stars in the void. There were also more than 10,000 seats on the second level. At the third level, there were only 3,000 seats. As for the fourth level, there were only 10 seats. There were 6 seats on the fifth level and 3 seats on the seventh level. This side with more seats belonged to the Pan-Gu Chaos realm. The seats on the top 3 levels were obviously provided for Yang Mei, Hongjun, and other participants. As for the bottom 4 levels, they were provided for the audience of desolation. This arena battle was a major event that concerned the entire chaos realm and the desolation. It was an unprecedented grand occasion. If it was kept a secret, it would be a reckless waste of God's gifts. After all, if he could observe a battle like this, he would definitely be able to gain a lot of inspiration from other people's experiences. Of course, although the entire arena was huge, there were not many people who could enter the arena to watch the battle. After all, the entire arena was shrouded by a mysterious power. Since there was no need to fear that the combatants would cause too much damage, it could also prevent them from hurting the innocent. However, it would not be good if the spectators were too scattered to guard the battle. Moreover, the rarer something was, the more precious it was. If everyone could enter the arena, it would not be precious and special. Fortunately, even if they couldn't enter the arena to watch the battle, even ordinary people could clearly see everything on the arena. It was incomparably clear. There was not a single flaw. However, one was immersive, while the other was like watching a TV show or watching a movie. The experience was completely different. Therefore, the rewards were naturally completely different. The two-realm arena battle has begun. Participants and spectators, please enter the arena. Take pictures. Just as the crowd was still shocked by the news and the arena, a voice rang out. In the void, the familiar voice sounded again. As soon as the voice finished speaking, countless rays of divine light shot out from the arena that was located in the middle of the chaos realm. The light scattered across the entire chaos realm like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. Chapter 12:27. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the entire Pan-Gu chaotic world, regardless of whether it was the living beings in the chaotic world or the desolation, and even some living beings from the vast thousand domains, felt an irresistible force descend upon them. Some people did not even know what was happening. They might have been cultivating or dreaming. Then they felt dizzy. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves in a different world. Those who did not know would have thought that they had been kidnapped. Although there were hundreds of thousands of spectator seats, it was too little compared to the living beings in the entire chaotic world. Therefore, those who wanted to enter the inner area to watch the battle had to think carefully. However, the people who entered the arena this time were not determined by their cultivation. Instead, it was a comprehensive consideration of all aspects: potential, foundation, cultivation, fate, merit. If one's cultivation was at the advanced stage of the quasi-sage realm, but his potential was exhausted and his fate was mediocre, while the other person's cultivation was only at the golden immortal realm, but his fate was like a rainbow and his potential was huge. Without a doubt, the divine light of receiving in the arena would choose the latter and not the former. After all, there were not many opportunities like this. Naturally, one had to maximize the benefits. It was better to bully the old man than to bully a poor youth. This was a principle that applied to all corners of the world. Although some people said that geniuses had to grow up, at least they had a greater chance. Investments required the greatest benefits at the lowest cost. This was also why people were willing to accept genius disciples. They were willing to form good relationships with geniuses. Didn't Yang Mei bet on Fang Qingshan because he had the timeless arc? Although the arena was not a human or a living being, it was controlled by the equalization Tao. The world was bustling for benefits, and the world was bustling for benefits. The great Tao was no exception. Although he did not know what benefits he could gain from this, it was obvious that he could gain more from a genius in the long run. As such, the selection rules were very clear. Those who were chosen were naturally overjoyed, and they wished that the whole world could know of their happiness. Those who were not chosen were naturally grief-stricken. After all, this was also a great opportunity, and it was indeed a pity to miss such a grand occasion. Regardless of how the others felt, Fang Qingshan also felt an irresistible, vast force descend on his body at the same time the divine light shot out from the arena. It was going to suck his entire body over without any hesitation. Unlike the others, Fang Qingshan was not unable to resist. Because before the divine light fell on him, the treasures on Fang Qingshan, such as the timeless arc, the mirror of Samsara, and the chessboard of heavens, all rioted in an attempt to block the divine light from falling. Not only him, but also Yang Mei, Mosquito Daoran, Ro, Hutu, Hongjun, and Sanqing. Even those who had reached the pinnacle of sage-to-be and possessed treasures were the same. Of course, whether or not he could resist, it was another matter. Fang Qingshan knew that this was the divine light of the arena. Therefore, he did not refuse and stop the resistance of the treasures in his body. Fang Qingshan felt the world spinning around him, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself in the middle of the dueling ring, just like the other lucky fellows. However, after thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of lucky people entered the arena, they all landed in the lower 3 levels of the spectator seats. As for Fang Qingshan, he directly landed at the top. Good heavens, what a surging fate! After entering the arena, Fang Qingshan did not rush to observe carefully. He just glanced at the crowd who were a little excited because they entered the arena. Fang Qingshan squinted his eyes at once, because from these people, Fang Qingshan saw boundless fate. There were only hundreds of thousands of people here. Not to mention desolation, even in the mini Kiliacosm, they were just a drop in the ocean, not worth mentioning. However, the karmic luck on their bodies was so dense that it was simply shocking. Because even if the experts above the primordial chaos were excluded, the fusion of the other people's fate was no worse than the human Tao fate of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Because of the return of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, it was even better. I don't know how the arena picked so many children of fate in the first place. Fang Qingshan was very puzzled about this, and could only sigh with emotion at the boundless divine power of the Great Way. After all, it wasn't easy to probe a person's karmic luck. Probing casually could easily lead to a backlash from karmic luck. Moreover, people with high cultivation usually had treasures to conceal their fate, while people with low cultivation did not reveal their fate. Some children of fate even had Hongjun Tiandao to conceal their fate. Therefore, Fang Qingshan could not help but be shocked that so many people with strong fate were summoned in such a short time. After sighing with emotion, Fang Qingshan cast his gaze across the entire arena. Good lord, this should be a treasure, and I'm afraid it's no weaker than a chaotic treasure. A heartfelt exclamation once again sounded in Fang Qingshan's heart. Standing on the ground, Fang Qingshan carefully sensed the stability of the space, as well as the absolute binding force. Fang Qingshan compared it to the Purple Cloud Palace. Not to mention the Purple Cloud Palace, even the Panga Hall could not compare to it. Immediately, a wave of excitement rose in his heart. After all, this was the first time he had seen and felt such a powerful treasure. He could not help but sigh emotionally. Indeed, there were only 4 chaotic treasures in the entire Pan-Gu chaotic world. They were the Green Lotus of Creation, the Creation Jade Archive, the Sky-Splitting Axe, and the Chaotic Bead. As for whether there were more hidden treasures, this was not clear. However, even if there were, there would definitely not be many. Now, they had only obtained a chaotic treasure for a mere martial arts competition. How could they not be generous? In fact, this was not considered making a mountain out of a molehill. After all, the cultivation of the participants had to be suppressed first. A weaker Dharma treasure would not be able to do that. Moreover, Hongjun and the others had chaos spiritual artifacts in their hands, and the grade of those chaos spiritual artifacts wasn't low. If they didn't build a chaos spiritual artifact battle stage, they might as well not build one, lest they broke it. The first round of the arena battles, the first battle below the origin realm, begins. Without giving the crowd too much time to adapt, the familiar voice from before rang out once all the seats were filled. Then, from the Untainted Land side and the Poison God Marquis side, one person each was directly sucked into an arena by an invisible force. The first person to fight on Desolation side was none other than the Azura Sovereign. On the other hand, the Poison Marquis had chosen an expert called Mistaken Soul Chaser. Everyone wanted to get off to a good start in the first round, so they had sent out the relatively stronger ones among the 10. The combatants from both sides had the cultivation of a secondary saint. They hadn't seen any divine abilities or spiritual treasures yet, but just by looking at their auras, they were different from ordinary people and weren't conventional. Chapter 1228. Pata. With his feet firmly planted on the ground, the Shura Sovereign stepped onto a stage. Whoosh! His eyes were like 2 sharp blades shooting out of his eye sockets, staring at his opponent. Ding, ding, ding. At the same time, the Shura Sovereign stood on a 13th realm white lotus. Above his head was the Shura flag. He held the bloodthirsty jade seal in one hand and the halberd of sin in the other. He went all out. His body exuded a sharp pressure and frightening chi. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit. Plus, it was an occasion like this, and he was facing an opponent like this. There was no room for carelessness. If he lost the competition because of his own carelessness, it would be a big deal for the Shura Sovereign. First of all, this wasn't a battle of life and death, but there was still a price to be paid. Treasures, luck, merit, secret techniques. If he won, he could obtain the secret technique to break through to the primordial origin realm. But if he lost, he would have to pay a corresponding price. What if his opponent asked for the 13th realm White Lotus? Or half of his luck, the position of the Path Master of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation, or the Blood Sea Scripture? The Shura Sovereign would suffer a great loss. Secondly, if he lost, not only would he have to pay a price, he wouldn't receive any rewards or spoils of war. Thus, he would lose the best opportunity to break through to the primordial origin realm. Though the primordial origin realm wasn't much in the infinite void, it was a dividing line. If one couldn't even reach the primordial origin realm, one would truly be cannon fodder. Even if Fang Qingshan and the others won in the end and obtained the corresponding secret technique, it wouldn't be easy for him to break through because of his failure. Then there was Face. This time, he wasn't just representing himself. He was representing the sea of desolation, the blood sea, and the elder. If he lost, it didn't matter what others thought of him. His losses weren't important either. But if he humiliated the elder, that would be a great sin, especially since the elder and Daozu didn't get along. Therefore, the Shura sovereign gave his all at once. Not only did he bring out the White Lotus, but he also summoned the immortal body of the Sea of Blood and used the scripture of the Sea of Blood. Just by standing on the stage, he gave off the feeling that he was a battle sword, a peerless battle sword that was about to reveal its sharpness. It was not any weaker than the killing power of the halberd of sin. There was no need to probe, because there was no need at all. He had to use the fastest speed, the fiercest attack, and seize victory, lest a long night brings trouble. After all, compared to the faction of desolation, the Poison God Marquis and the Poison God Marquis were stronger in terms of all kinds of divine abilities and secret techniques. Once the Poison God Marquis and the Poison God Marquis had the time to use them, they would not be at a disadvantage. At the very least, it would not be easy to deal with them. Therefore, the Poison God Marquis and the Poison God Marquis had to use the momentum of the autumn wind to sweep away the fallen leaves, not giving the Poison God Marquis any chance. The Shura Sovereign had once fought for the opportunity on the heavenly road. Although he seemed to have improved compared to the last time, it was still within the acceptable range for the people of the untainted land, so they were not too surprised. On the Infinite Void side, the Poison Marquis and the others were looking at the Shura Sovereign solemnly. The Pangu chaotic world is great. Even though it has encountered a great disaster and is weak in terms of top experts, that doesn't mean it's easy to mess with them. Yes, one can tell the whole picture from a single spot. If the Shura Sovereign alone is this strong, then there's no need to talk about the others. I hope this is just the strength of an individual. If the overall strength is the same, then I'm afraid we'll be in trouble. Yes, this person's cultivation has reached the half-step origin immemorial realm. He has all kinds of treasures and a solid foundation. He also has the combat physique. In terms of battle experience, he seems to be very rich. It's too late to say anything now. We can only hope that Soul Chasing can win. Seeing the Shura Sovereign's performance, the Poison Marquis and the others had a bad feeling. However, no matter what they thought or how worried they were, it was all too late. Once the battle started, no one could interfere. It was up to the two sides to improvise. At the same time the Shura Sovereign appeared, a figure appeared in front of him. It was a man with a tall and sturdy body. His muscles were coiled and full of explosive power. In terms of momentum, he was similar to the Shura Sovereign. His whole body was overflowing with an iron-blooded killing aura. In fact, it wasn't just his momentum that was similar to the Shura Sovereign's. Almost all the subordinates of the Poison Marquis had the same momentum. After all, they were void thieves who lived on the edge of a knife and had experienced hundreds of battles. He wore a blood-red cloak and held a long spear with a frost-like killing intent. The spear was 8 meters long and dark red. It seemed to be dyed in blood. It was engraved with ancient patterns and looked like a hidden poisonous snake. His whole person was like a veteran warrior on the battlefield. Like the Shura Sovereign, the moment this person appeared, he entered battle mode. His whole body was tense, as if he could launch a thunderous attack at any time. In fact, this was not surprising. After all, with their profession and experience, this was the only way they could survive longer. Soul Chasing. The man directly spat out 2 words. Shura. The Shura Sovereign also replied with 2 words. Kill. After introducing themselves, the two shouted at the same time and attacked together. Soul Chasing let out a shout and shook the dark red spear in his hand. The entire spear shot out like a poisonous snake coming out of its lair. It was so fast that no one could react, especially the red cloak on his back. In a flash, he appeared in front of the Shura Sovereign. Clearly, this red cloak was not just for decoration. It was also a treasure. Its other abilities had not been seen, but its support and speed were excellent. Fast as a swan, fast as lightning. It was so fast that the eyes and primordial spirit couldn't see it. It was so fast that the consciousness couldn't react. In the world of martial arts, there was nothing that couldn't be overcome. Soul chasing lived up to the name of soul chasing. With a shake of the spear, it seemed like it was chasing after the soul. In almost a millionth of a second, the spear force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas shot out endlessly. This was not because of the waves following the spear, but because in a short period of time, the spear had shaken tens of thousands of times. It was just that because it was too fast, one couldn't see the endless follow-up power of the spear as it merged into one. If someone could see the speed of soul chasing, they would see that it was actually like 9 stars in a row. Before the first spear landed, another spear had already followed. Moreover, the attacks all landed in the same place, so the power to break through defense was naturally greatly increased. Although the Shura sovereign went all out and didn't underestimate the other party, seeing soul chasing make a move, he was still a little surprised. After all, his speed was a little too fast. He wanted to end the battle as quickly as possible, and the other party had the same idea. Soul chasing, soul chasing, soul chasing. There were only wrong names, not wrong nicknames. From this nickname, it could be seen that soul chasing was a speed type. Chapter 1229. Although the Shura sovereign was not slow, Bloodsea's escape technique was definitely not weaker than the rainbow transformation technique, Fuyao body technique, soaring golden light, somersault cloud, and so on. Moreover, if one's cultivation level broke through to primordial chaos or had a deeper understanding of the blood Tao, it would be easy to surpass the other speed techniques. After all, the Bloodsea itself was a top-notch escape technique. After Mosquito Dorn's improvement, not only had some drawbacks been removed, but the side effects had also been integrated with the blood law. It had also essentially increased his speed and become a primordial chaos escape technique. Although the somersault cloud had been created by Zhuanti and the soaring golden light had been created by the heavenly venerate of primordial beginning. However, the two of them definitely could not be compared to Mosquito Dorn. More importantly, they had not integrated compatible laws. Therefore, they were inferior in nature. Even if they were integrated, it still depended on whether the user had comprehended similar laws. Putting all these aside, although the Shura sovereign's speed was not slow, he did not cultivate speed laws after all, and his fighting style was not based on speed. Therefore, it was understandable that he had been caught off guard by soul chasing at the beginning. Looking at the ferocious spearhead, the Shura sovereign's hair stood on end. His heart seemed to be squeezed hard, and his pupils constricted to the size of a needle. Fortunately, he was also a person who had been on the battlefield for a long time, so he did not panic even though he was shocked. Almost at the same time that soul-chasing spear fell, the Shura sovereign also swung the halberd of sin in his hand. In an instant, a vast sea of blood appeared out of thin air between the two of them. Different situations called for different actions. At that moment, the Shura sovereign used the strategy of not changing and defending against attacks. It was an impenetrable defense. Clang, 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 clang. Because the speed was too fast, just like the thousands of spears converging into one, the clang of metal also converged into one. It was as if a primordial chaos expert had rung the bell of chaos. Although there was an arena to protect them, the eyes of the spectators and even the living beings outside the arena rolled back and turned white as they fainted. Those with higher cultivation levels also felt dizzy. As expected of someone from Boundless Void, you do have some skills. As mentioned before, although Shura Sovereign didn't specialize in speed, his speed wasn't bad. Although he was caught off guard by Soul Chaser at first, he quickly adapted. Now that he had adapted, it was time for him to counterattack. The Shura Sovereign's eyes narrowed, and at the same time, his eyes flashed with a frightening fighting spirit. Suppress. The Shura Sovereign's eyes narrowed. The halberd of sin in his hand continued to sweep across the land. It was pushed to the limit by him, and it was like a divine sun was blooming above the earth. However, the bloodthirsty jade seal in his other hand was activated at the same time, flying out of his hand. The bloodthirsty jade seal flew out of the Shura sovereign's hand and instantly grew. In a flash, it turned into a Bujo mountain that was no weaker than the sky-flipping seal. In a daze, he saw a boundless sea of blood take form, and then it reversed. The four seas overturned, and the curtain of beads rolled in reverse, surging over with unstoppable force. Wherever it went, it could destroy and drown everything, especially since it contained a corrosive power that was unique to the Sea of Blood. Above the Sea of Blood, there was a silhouette of an emperor wearing a crimson robe. He stood above the Sea of Blood and controlled it. Against the bloodthirsty jade seal, Soul Chaser no longer cared about attacking the Shura sovereign. After all, his attacks were completely ineffective and were blocked by the Halberd of Sin. Though the bloodthirsty jade seal and the Halberd of Sin were of the same level, when it came to single-target attacks, the bloodthirsty jade seal far surpassed the Halberd of Sin. Therefore, Soul Chaser didn't dare to be careless. He felt threatened by the Halberd of Sin. After a loud roar, the soul-chasing spear in his hand swung out. There was an extremely sharp sound of the spear breaking through the air, accompanied by a wave of energy that was as bright as day. Clang! The moment the seal landed, the soul-chasing spear in Soul Chaser's hand bent as if its spine had been hit. It was bent at a 90-degree angle. Luckily, the quality of the spear was decent, or else it would have snapped in half. Even though it wasn't broken, cracks had appeared on it, and its color had clearly dimmed. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger had collapsed, and Chasing Soul spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura rapidly weakened, and his face became incomparably pale. The reason why the bloodthirsty jade seal was so powerful was not only because of its grade, but also because the Shura sovereign had been accumulating power from the very beginning, preparing for this thunderous strike. However, at first, Soul Chaser was far too fast, and he didn't have the time to attack. Even so, because he had more time to prepare, the bloodthirsty jade seal's power was unleashed to a greater extent. This was why he was able to succeed in one hit. This could be considered as Zhuan Hun seeking his own death. If he didn't attack first, the Shura sovereign wouldn't have attacked first, and the bloodthirsty jade seal wouldn't have been this powerful. What a powerful halberd technique. What a dominating jade seal. I cannot underestimate anyone in this world. In the beginning, he looked down on the natives of Desolation, thinking that they were merely frogs in a well and arrogant. When he entered the arena, he only paid a little more attention. When the Halberd of Sin blocked the soul-chasing spear, he became more serious. But now, Soul Chaser realized that he was too narrow-minded. Desolation may not be as strong as Infinite Void, but those below the Immortal Realm, or even those below the Immortal Realm, may not necessarily be weaker than them. However, this is not enough to stop me. Die. However, he did not panic because of this. After all, he was a person who had climbed out of a pile of corpses and was a veteran of hundreds of battles. After withstanding the attack of the bloodthirsty jade seal, he reacted almost immediately. He puked out a mouthful of blood that landed on the spear. With a shake, the spear turned into a stream of light and entered Soul Chaser's body. In the next moment, Soul Chaser transformed into a poisonous dragon and a spear. The unity of man and spear. Fast, even faster. Compared to the previous attack, it was more than twice as fast. Powerful, too powerful. Wherever the spear descended, even the void was annihilated, and all techniques ceased to exist. It's useless. Light of purification disperse. Unstoppable break. As the Shura's sovereign shouted, the 13th rank pure white lotus under his feet suddenly shone brightly and shot out billions of rays of divine purification light. When the soul-chasing spear landed on it, not only did it fail to break the defense, but it was like winter snow meeting pure sun. The secret technique was broken. In an instant, the spear and soul-chasing spear separated. At the same time, the Shura's sovereign swung the Halberd of Sin. With an unstoppable intent realm, it landed on Soul Chaser. The old force had just dissipated, but the new force had not yet been regenerated. At this moment, Soul Chaser only had time to mobilize the blood-colored cloak behind him in an attempt to defend against the halberd of Sin's attack. Unfortunately, it was useless. Chapter 1230. This blood-red cloak was also a rare treasure. Apart from the soul-chasing spear in his hand, this item played an important role in soul-chasing. Because this treasure could increase one's speed, and it was a great one. The reason why the Shura Sovereign was caught off guard when Soul Chaser attacked was because of this treasure. However, this treasure could not only increase one's speed, but it was also a defensive spiritual treasure. Although it was not a primordial spiritual treasure, it was still a top-grade, acquired spiritual treasure. Its defensive power might not be as good as the 5-direction Lotus Throne, but it was not weaker than the 5-direction flags. Unfortunately, Soul Chasing was injured by the bloodthirsty Jade Seal, and his secret technique was broken by the purifying White Lotus. In addition, he had just used up all his strength, so he could only use 40% of the Blood-Red Cloak's power. The Halberd of Sin was not only a top-grade primordial spiritual treasure, but also a defensive magical power modified by Mosquito Dowrin from the Bloodsea Sutra. Therefore, he succeeded in one strike. Soul Chasing could only rely on the defense of the Blood-Red Cloak. He had just retreated 3 miles when his entire body was completely covered by the indestructible Halberd of Sin. In an instant, the Blood-Red Cloak was torn apart. The soul-chasing spear flew out of his hand, and his defensive secret technique was broken. The moment the Halberd of Sin landed on his body, his entire body turned into a beam of white light and disappeared, turning into nothingness. He disappeared from the arena. Whoosh! At the same time, if one had cultivated the heavens as secret technique or a magical power that could detect fate, he would be able to see that half of the pillar of fate above Soul Chasing's head was cut off by the Halberd of Sin. It was crushed into a rain of light by the sharp edge of the Halberd of Sin and separated from it. Under the influence of an invisible force, it quickly drilled into Shura Sovereign's body. The winner was the king, the loser was the bandit. If he defeated his opponent, he would be able to plunder a part of his fate. If he integrated it into his body, it would be the same as his own fate without any hidden dangers. At the same time as Soul Chasing's fate, another piece of information drilled into Shura Sovereign's mind. It was a secret technique which could help one break through to the Origin Realm. Obtaining Zhuan Hun's fate was indeed a joyous occasion. After all, although Zhuan Hun's fate couldn't be compared to Shura Sovereign's, it wasn't weak either. It could be considered one of the better ones among the peak quasi-sages and quasi-sages. With this providence, the Shura Sovereign's cultivation speed would increase by at least 1 level in the future. The difficulty of Tao enlightenment and even breaking through to primordial chaos would be greatly reduced. However, this was nothing compared to the mystic technique to break through to primordial chaos. If luck could reduce the difficulty of breaking through by 1 level, then the secret method could at least reduce the difficulty of breaking through by 3 levels. However, the reward did not end there. Whether it was Zhuan Hun's luck or the secret technique, they were all spoils of war. At the same time, within Pan Gu's chaos world, a stream of prime essence power descended. This was the reward of the great Tao. With the blessing of providence, mystic arts, and power of origin, the Azura Sovereign felt that the primordial chaos bottleneck that even merit couldn't shake in the past seemed to be shaking. He was overjoyed. If it weren't for the fact that this was not the right time, the Azura Sovereign would have immediately gone into seclusion to cultivate and not come out until he broke through to primordial chaos. Hao Yin, Xinyuanzi, and the others could not help but feel envious when they saw the fluctuating aura of Shura Sovereign. It seemed that he was about to break through in the next moment. At the same time, they could not help but look forward to their own battles. It seemed that they could see the moment when they defeated their opponents, obtained the providence, mystic arts, and broke through to primordial chaos. As for Wang Shu, Kuan Peng, and the others, they were envious, jealous, and hateful of Shura's sovereign's gains and the fact that they couldn't obtain the Heavenly Road's opportunity to enter the arena battle. However, they did not consider that although the battle between Zhuan Hun and Shura's sovereign was short, it was dangerous enough to let others know. If they were in Zhuan Hun's place, the outcome of the battle and the possibility of survival were still unknown. However, in general, Desolation's side had gotten off to a good start, so everyone was very happy. On the other hand, the Poison Marquis and the others looked a little solemn, but they did not blame Zhuan Hun. After all, they could see that Zhuan Hun did not let down his guard. It was not that he was too weak, but that his opponents were too strong. This was not the fault of the battle. Shura's sovereign did not stay in the arena for long. After receiving the reward, just like at the beginning, he was directly sucked out by an invisible force and returned to his seat in the blink of an eye. At the same time, 2 beams of divine light fell on the Desolation and the Poison Marquis sides, each taking a person and landing them in the arena. This time, the Desolation side had chosen the Xianhuang Taoist, while the Poison Marquis side had chosen a scholarly person. He wore a high hat and ancient clothes, and his face was neat and tidy, exuding boundless righteousness. The Poison Scholar. This person was a Confucian cultivator, just like the scholar, one of the 4 generals under the Poison Marquis. However, since he was called the Poison Scholar, he was obviously not a good person. But if he was a good person, he would not have mingled with the Void Thieves. On the surface, this person looked like an ancient scholar, but in fact, he was a person like Yu Buchuan. The Desolation Xianhuang, the Lifeless Scholar. The 2 announced their names and then made their moves at the same time. Righteousness exists in heaven and earth, giving form to chaos. Below are rivers and mountains, above are the sun and stars. To people, it is vast, filling the sky. The path of the Emperor is clear, containing peace and spitting out the bright court. At the end of time, it is seen, one by one, it is written in green. In Shi's Taishur bamboo slip, in Jin's Donghu brush. The Poison Scholar opened a bamboo slip, and with a long whistle, he used his scholarly aura and loudly recited an essay on morality. For a moment, the words floated in the air, shining brightly. An aura of creation, righteousness, and inheritance was emitted from these words. At the same time, all kinds of strange phenomena appeared. There were the prayers of tens of thousands of people worshiping, praising the prosperous times, the righteous imperial censors pleading for the people's lives, the sorrowful voice of not rejoicing in material things, not grieving for personal gain, worrying for the world, and happy for the world. The momentum was vast, somewhat similar to the time when the Kuan Peng created the demon characters and Sangjia created the characters in Hongjun Tiandao, the majestic scene of the power of humanity. Heaven and earth, black and yellow, untainted by all arts. It was a pity that he had met the profound yellow ancestor. The profound yellow chi of heaven and earth had taken form, and his own defense was above that of a divine beast like the dragon and phoenix. After cultivating the profound, yellow, indestructible body, his defense was even better than the heavenly lord of primordial beginnings' golden cloud lamp. These moral essays were filled with a sense of righteousness. However, it couldn't shake his defense at all. Moreover, Mysterious Yellow had been an otaku since he was born. Ferocious beasts, dragons, phoenixes, Taoist devils, and liches and demons did not come out. There was no karma, and the effect of the power of Confucianism on him was greatly reduced. I admit defeat. Seeing this scene, after several exchanges, the poisonous scholar decisively admitted defeat. He knew that he couldn't do anything to Mysterious Yellow. Instead of struggling and not changing the final result, he would have to expose his trump card. It would be better for him to admit defeat from the very beginning. Chapter 1231. Although the first battle was short, both Shura's sovereign and soul chasing had gone all out and used their respective means. Both sides were evenly matched, and in the end, Shura's sovereign won with his superior skills. No matter what the crowd thought, they all agreed that the match was wonderful. They had benefited a lot from it. However, when it came to the second round, the battle between the poisonous scholar and the Xianhuang Taoist, he felt that it had a strong start and a weak finish. They had just started fighting, and the main dish had not been served yet. They had not even used their trump cards, yet one side had admitted defeat decisively. If it were not for the fact that they did not know each other and had no relationship with each other, and that the loser would have to pay a huge price, everyone would have thought that there was some kind of shady deal between them. In fact, this was also the reason why the people of Desolation were not familiar with the poisonous scholar. If they had known, they would not have been so surprised. Regarding the poisonous scholar's behavior, not to mention the onlookers, even Mysterious Yellow was a little surprised. However, no matter what, the result was good. He had obtained a part of the poisonous scholar's providence, the reward of the Great Path origin, and the secret method to break through to the origin realm. Mysterious Yellow was quite satisfied with this. It was better to be able to win easily than to work hard and use all his trump cards. After all, Mysterious Yellow was not Shura, and people like Wu people were not born to be combative. If they were, they probably would not have been able to endure the opening of the sky until the opportunity on the heavenly road appeared. I thought that the people from the outer domain were very powerful, but it turns out that they're just so. Yes, seeing how serious Daozu was, I thought that he was very powerful, but he actually took the initiative to admit defeat. It's a shame. If they are all like this, we will win. The people who participated in the battle were fine, but the other people who watched the two battles suddenly felt that they were just so. Humph. Compared to the joy on the side of Desolation, the atmosphere on the side of the poisonous God Marquis was a little depressed. It was not that they were unhappy with the poisonous scholar's initiative to admit defeat. They did not express anything about it. After all, they were too familiar with the poisonous scholar's character. They were used to it. Was the poisonous scholar strong? He was definitely strong. To be able to participate in the battle, one had to be strong. However, he was the most slippery of existences. As long as it wasn't a matter of life and death, as long as he felt it wasn't worth it and he wasn't confident, he would retreat or admit defeat within a few moments. It was hard to say whether this was good or bad, but in terms of staying alive, the poisonous scholar had indeed done a good job. Many primordial chaos experts, who were more powerful than him, had been defeated, but he had escaped unscathed. However, it was also because of this that he did not have an indomitable aura, did not have the determination to fight to the end, and did not have the determination to cut off all means of retreat. Many people were like the poisonous scholar. Even though his juniors had broken through to the primordial chaos realm, he was still wasting his time under the primordial chaos realm. Although the poison scholar was strong, Xianhuang was even stronger. Therefore, no one was surprised that he took the initiative to admit defeat. The main reason why the poison god Marquis and the others were unhappy was because they had lost both matches. This had nothing to do with face, but profit. After all, the outcome of every battle was not only related to the combatants themselves, but also the interests of both sides. For example, if Zhuanhun and the poisonous scholar had lost, not only would their providence be damaged, but the providence of everyone on the poison god Marquis side would also be damaged. More importantly, if they lost more than 6 out of the 10 matches under the primordial chaos realm, they would be considered to have completely lost this battle. This would put them at a complete disadvantage. If they lost another match between early-stage primordial chaos realm experts, they would not even need to compete with mid-stage primordial chaos realm experts, as they would have completely lost. This was also why Hong Jun had attached so much importance to this arena battle. They had not hesitated to open the Heavenly Roads opportunity and had not hesitated to let Fong Qingshan and the others join. If it had only involved 2 people fighting, Hong Jun believed that he could definitely defeat the poison god Marquis, even though they were suppressed to the same realm. However, this was not the case. Winning every battle would allow one to obtain the opponent's providence, corresponding mystic techniques, divine abilities, numinous treasures, and so on. However, if one wanted to avoid the Deva's 5 decrepitude and break through to the immortal realm, one had to win all 3 arena battles. In other words, there would be 10 matches for those under the primordial chaos realm, 6 matches for those of the early stage primordial chaos realm, and 3 matches for those of the mid-stage primordial chaos realm. In order to win 2 matches, one had to win at least 6 matches for those below the primordial chaos realm, for matches for those at the early stage primordial chaos realm, for matches for those of the early stage primordial chaos realm, 2 matches for those of the mid-stage primordial chaos realm, 6 matches for those below the primordial chaos realm, and 2 matches for those of the mid-stage primordial chaos realm. They had already lost 2 matches at the beginning. If they lost 4 more matches, they would completely lose this round. How could the poison god Marquis and the others feel comfortable about this? Humph. Let original demon fight next. We can only win this battle. If we lose again, you don't need to come back. That's right. We need to show the imposing manner of the lifeless demon palace in this battle. Otherwise, people will think that we are all disciples with an undeserved reputation. That's right. It's time to teach them a lesson. Look at their smug faces. Regardless of whether it's for the sake of the present or the future, we can't let them look down on us. After all, we are always in a weak position. Desolation Hao Yin. Lifeless original demon. For the third match, Desolation sent Hao Yin, while the poison god Marquis sent original demon. As usual, when the two of them arrived at the arena, they registered their names. This was not only for the sake of politeness and respect for their opponents, but also to let the spectators know their names. Why did the great Tao in the arena allow everyone to watch them fight? In addition to being a golden age and an opportunity, it was also beneficial for both sides. However, this benefit could only be applied to the winning side. This benefit was actually the light from Providence. Where did the light from Providence come from? Everything had its own light from Providence. When the light from Providence was thin, it would die. In addition to innate talent, cultivation, background, numinous treasures, blessed grotto heavens, heavenly treasures, and so on, there was another way to gather the light from Providence, which was to gather the light from Providence through fame. In fact, the power of incense and will were somewhat similar. However, one did not need devout faith to gather light from Providence. As long as one was famous enough, one could gather light from Providence. Before Fuxi, Shinnong, and the others became the rulers of the human race, they had also used this method to gather fame and light from Providence to ascend to the throne. Naturally, it was the same here. They had won in front of everyone in the Pangu chaos. Even Daozu's lectures in the Purple Cloud Palace could not compare to the spread of their fame. The concentrated light from Providence was naturally enough to make people salivate. Chapter 1232. Of course, in order to accumulate fame and thus obtain fate, it was not an easy task. The most important thing was to see how well one performed in the arena. If it was brilliant, then it would be great. Otherwise, it would not only be useless, but also counterproductive. After Hao Yin and the original demon exchanged their names, they immediately used their unique skills, just like before. Although Poison Marquis and the others did not seem to be as powerful as they had imagined from the previous 2 battles, and even the Poisonous Scholar had appeared, Hao Yin did not let his guard down. The reason was similar to what Shura's sovereign had thought. No matter what, the other party's cultivation was the same as his. They both had the cultivation of a quasi-saint and had come from the outer domain. They had been fighting all year round, so no matter how inferior they were, they would still be 30%. If he were to fail miserably because of his carelessness, it was one thing to lose face, but the most important thing was still the benefits. Especially Hao Yin. If others fail, they would fail. At most, they would not be able to reach the realm of origin and would need to lie dormant for a period of time. But he could not. After all, he was still a celestial emperor, the highest karma rank in desolation. Although he was just a puppet, if he succeeded this time and broke through to the realm of origin, the situation would be completely different. He could completely break free from the control of Sanqing and the others. Even if he had just entered the realm of origin, he would at least be on the same level as a sage. He would not be completely helpless when facing San Qing. If he failed, the result would be very unpredictable, especially in front of all living beings in the world. As a celestial emperor, the leader of the three realms, he had performed so poorly. Not to mention breaking through to the realm of origin, his position as a celestial emperor would probably be even more unstable. He might even be demoted from his karma rank. Another point was that character determined fate. As a qualified emperor, being suspicious and shrewd were the most important. After all, without these 2 points, he would either be a mere figurehead or not be able to sit firmly on the throne. One wrong step, and he would fall into a bottomless abyss. Moreover, in the previous 2 battles, Poison Marquis' side had performed so poorly. It was actually understandable. After all, compared to the infinite void and the myriad realms, the ordinary chaotic world only lacked top-notch combat power, realm of origin, immortal realm, divine king, and divine emperor. However, the combat power of those below primordial chaos was not necessarily inferior to them. After all, the various chaotic worlds did not lack the legacies below the origin realm. It was just that each had its own characteristics. Coupled with the spiritual treasures, they were better than those in the infinite void. As for the mystic techniques, those below the origin realm might not be much better than theirs. Furthermore, these 10 people were the result of careful selection from Hongjuan's Heaven's Road. It represented the top combat power of the Desolation realm below the origin realm. Even if the Eastern Emperor Tai, who is known as the strongest person below the Saints, were to come back to life, he might not dare to say that he could win for sure. In particular, the mysterious Yellow Emperor and the Shura Sovereign were the best of the 10, unparalleled in attack and defense. On the other hand, Soul Chaser and Poison Scholar's attacks were restrained by the 2 of them. Then there was Chasing Soul. Although the Poison Scholar wasn't bad and wasn't at the bottom, they couldn't represent the true pinnacle of Boundless Void. Although the Lifeless Demon Palace was extraordinary, its members were too mixed. There were elite disciples comparable to the top forces, and there were also ordinary people. Regardless of whether they were elites or ordinary people, they were just grassroots personnel. The real elites of Boundless Void started from the origin realm and were those with titles. As for those below the origin realm, only the elite disciples of the ancient forces in the top 100 chaotic worlds could fight against the origin realm. It was as if the ordinary elites in the Desolation realm were the 3,000 guests of the Purple Cloud Palace, while the core elites were Sanqing, Junti, Niuhua, Jin, and others. Kill! Kill! The 2 of them shouted at the same time. Hao Ian pulled out the sword hanging at his waist. Although this sword wasn't as good as the Wu killing sword, and was even weaker than the 4 immortal killing swords, Qingping's sword and Yuan Tuavichi's sword, it was still a top primordial spirit treasure, and it was as powerful as the Taiya sword. It was an emperor-based supreme treasure, which matched Hao Ian's attribute very well. No one knew where Hao Ian got it, but he was a celestial emperor after all, and his luck was incomparable to others, so it was understandable that he had some fortuitous encounters. After a clear sword chime, the chime spread and formed sound waves visible to the naked eye between heaven and earth. The dazzling sword light slashed out, crisscrossing space and time. A domineering artistic conception of an emperor raged. It was a domineering power that controlled the state affairs and ruled the world with one word. It also had the power of ruling the world and letting people live and work in peace and contentment. Because Hao Ian was a celestial emperor, different from human emperors, this artistic conception was even more superior. After all, human emperors, even human sovereigns like Fuxi, only ruled a territory, but Hao Ian was the lord of the 3 realms, ruling the 3 realms, 6 paths, 9 heavens, and 10 earths. Logically speaking, the whole of Desolation and even the saints were within his jurisdiction. As the sword fell, the sword light was like a cluster. This was no longer a sword, but a sword river condensed by sword chi. Infinite sword chi gathered and evolved into many great matrices. 1 origin, 2 polarities, 3 talents for symbols, 5 elements, 6 harmonies. These matrices combined with each other and melted into a huge river. It felt like the formation of innumerable immortals. Hao Ian was indeed Hao Ian, and he had some skills. The swordsmanship cultivation that he showed was top-notch in the whole of Desolation. This was actually not difficult to understand. After all, he was Hong Juan's disciple. He taught Hong Jun by word and example and influenced him imperceptibly. If he did not gain anything, wouldn't it make people feel that Hong Jun did not deserve his reputation? Moreover, he was able to defeat Kunpeng, Shilong, and the others in the Heavenly Road. How could it be so simple? Lawless, demonic path. While everyone marveled at Hao Ian, who was indeed the celestial emperor of Desolation, the original demon was not affected at all. He calmly displayed his abilities. Compared to Hao Ian, who was upright and mighty, as if he wanted to suppress his enemies with the power of the heavens, the original demon displayed a completely lawless demonic path. Endless demonic chi whizzed over like smoke filled the sky, sweeping up sand. Wherever it passed, the ground rapidly turned pitch black. Viscous demonic chi constantly rose from the ground, and the sky and space turned pitch black in a few breaths' time. It was obvious that he had been demonized. Wherever the demonic light went, even the places that it could affect, were all transformed into demonic soil. This was a little similar to the time when Zhuan Ti became a saint. Buddhist light swept across the sky, and everywhere it went, it was like a world of bliss. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.